Warning: the following video contains clips and images that may not be suitable for some viewers. But yeah. Alright, we are live.
Hi.
It might not be on Steam.
What's going on Twitch?
Maybe not. Who knows?
It's your boy, Little Pepperonio.
Hello, Pete.
We got Beck here.
Yeah.
And, and Sam with
Sorry,
his...
I was doing something else and I was so zoned out.
And we're here to talk about the Evil Dead.
You marked it as Resident Evil 4?
No, I
You
thought
marked it as
I thought I changed
No,
something.
it's Resident Evil Dead 4 time, boys.
God damn it. Alright, hold on.
We'll be back.
No, I can do it during stream. I thought
Oh, can you?
I thought I changed that. Unless I didn't hit.
Yeah, ironically, I didn't think we were going to talk about primitive screwheads until the third movie, but...
Hey, all right. This is like Whitest Kids You Know style. All right, they're never completely ready at the top.
You know, we had to pregame a little bit. It's all
right,
good.
I think we're good now. I
Mhm.
think. All right.
All right.
Well, Sam, I gotta ask right off the bat because you're the only one that hadn't seen these going in.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that.
What did you think of?
Just hit you with that right now, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can wait. I guess we could just go through.
No, do it.
Yeah, no,
I
I think
got
this is a
you.
good way to open with it. Man.
Well, I did just be general with it, but did you like it or not?
The series in general, or the
series in
first
general.
movie?
Yeah, right?
I thought it was a little over the top. And I honestly didn't really think it was that good. I mean,
Oh,
so I'll give like a general review of how I saw it, right? Evil Dead, the first one, it was kind of like a scary movie, right? It's meant to be scary,
Yes.
but just the effects were way too much. And I feel like that they probably got comments about that, and they kind of continue that through all the other movies. just carried on, making everything over the top.
Okay.
And
so did you
didn't think I
watch
really
the
liked
remake,
that.
right?
I mean, it was still a fun movie. So, the Army of Darkness, or
No, the Evil Dead remake came out, what, 2013?
Yeah, that's when the newer one.
I did not watch that one. No, I watched the first
Okay.
two and then Army of Darkness.
So then I'm just
I
going
should've
to
watched that
throw
one.
this out there then. 50,000 gallons of blood, I think, roughly, were used in that movie, and was it 40,000 were used in one scene?
It was 70,000 for the whole movie.
70,000?
50,000 for the scene you're talking about, where it's like raining blood.
Yeah, you're talking about them going over the top with the effects, and like you
Yeah.
should have seen that. Like it really.
Well, that movie's that remake is all. I didn't know that that's all practical effects. That whole movie, which just makes it way more impressive.
Yeah.
You should watch it though. I know you said you weren't a huge fan of it, but you should see it just for like that alone.
Well,
I'll probably check it out. Yeah.
When you've got the time for it.
You also might enjoy it a little more. I don't know. I mean, it's a remake of the first movie, so it's a lot more like straightforward, like gnarly, modern, like gore and horror.
Mhm.
I think it's a tasteful remake.
But it
because
doesn't.
It's not like replicating the same characters.
Yeah, it doesn't replicate the same characters, and there's not a scene where somebody gets sucked through a cellar door and then a geyser of blood comes out. Like, it's a little. The gore is, I guess, a little more realistic, if you want to say that, outside of the one scene we were talking about with the.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
But
realistic to Slayer.
But yeah. Well, I guess then, Sam, this is gonna be a period of time where we're gonna try and defend these movies and make you see them for what they are, because they are awesome.
Which is amazing.
They are amazing. And there's a particular reason that they're so awesome. I guess there's multiple reasons, but
there's
the particular reason for why the effects are so over the top and might not like work for you necessarily.
I think
Alright,
there's
well, I'm open-minded,
a
so you
specific
could
chin
probably...
that makes these movies amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. But do you wanna start off then, Devin?
I mean, yeah. So, do we want to just spend some time talking about that chin, or do we just want to talk about the movies and let the chin come?
I mean,
through?
we could do a stream dedicated to the chin.
Yeah.
I mean, he literally was his autobiography. It's like if chins could kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Campbell kicks ass in those movies. I like that he kind of looks like a doughy. He's like a doughy looking guy that's just like terrified through most of the first movie, and then the second movie he's like completely chiseled and ripped, and all of a sudden he's like an action hero.
Yeah, because I mean, he goes from this character who really was just supposed to be killed off at the end to now he's going to be the star and like an actual antagonist that will fight back and not just spend the entire movie running from his dead friends. But,
I guess, yeah.
I mean, obviously.
We'll start with the first movie and we'll go from there, because I know he's gonna come up multiple times throughout the whole thing. So
well, he's primarily
right, but I just mean like we're gonna have so much stuff to say about him that's just gonna come up as like a a branch off of some idea we mention. So right off the bat, that opening shot in the first Evil Dead, where it's like the POV of evil. That's Beck. You know how they did that, right?
It was so I mean, the evil was shot like in like a few different techniques throughout the whole movie. But I know people were talking about a lot of the time it was just Sam Raimi running around the woods holding a camera and like jumping over logs. I think it was like in the final shot they said on one of the final shots it was them riding on a bike. They had mounted the camera to, if I'm right. But primarily, yeah, it was just him running around the woods or somebody with the camera. See,
Sam, you gotta understand part of why so many people love the first one in particular, is because it was basically proof to a lot of big name filmmakers nowadays that like you didn't have to be from Hollywood to make a movie. You could just be some kid from the Midwest with a camera and go out into the woods with your friends and make a movie. Because that's what this was. This wasn't... They got, like, I think $80,000 for their budget from, like, some investors that were made up of, like doctors and dentists.
Initial starting point. 'Cause, I mean, they even had to stop filming, get more, like, part of the way through. Even. Wow. And, I mean, Sam Raimi, literally, he just turned 20 when they started filming. He was fresh off the teens era of his life.
And the movie...
And they shot in Tennessee?
Yeah, and it was a crew of 13 people total. They slept in the cabin that they used to film, which was a old hunting station, or it was used as a hunting station, like when it wasn't being used for the movie.
Yeah. Well, they said that there was like no bathroom or anything, but there was a phone line, I think, in the cabin. Like that was like the only amenity it had.
It would suck.
Yeah.
They had broken most of the furniture in the house. Like there was like no furniture in the house towards the end of the movie because they had broken it all down for burning it for warmth. I think like it's really just amazing. Like you really go back, like they destroyed a lot of stuff in the movie, and you're like, all of that went to firewood.
Yeah,
you guys hear the dog? I'm trying to stay muted, but
yeah, but it's whatever. So what was I gonna say?
Mm-hmm. You're talking about the old movie.
Yeah. So that was because you're talking about how like they had to burn for like to stay warm and stuff. I was watching because my copy of Evil Dead 2, for some reason my copy of Evil Dead didn't really have any special features, but Evil Dead 2 had like a documentary about making the movie that was almost as long, if not longer, than the actual movie.
Really?
And they kept talking about how terrible it was to make the first movie. Like they absolutely hated it.
I was reading a thing to where it was Sam Raimi kind of talking about how he's like, take this for how you will. He was 20. He was like, he liked to torture his cast. So he's like, I really feel like you got a lot out of it. And there was a part at some point, Bruce Campbell had fallen and like gashed his leg pretty bad. And Sam would talk about like in between shots, he would just sit there and start poking at it with a stick just to get some pain out of him. He could like transfer that into the scenes. Like he really did torture his career. Like he was probably the only person, and I say this like so, like it wasn't fun, but he was probably the only person that got any enjoyment out of it. Is because everybody was getting tortured just a little bit extra from him, and it. But
yeah,
I don't know.
They kept saying that they really enjoyed torturing. He really enjoyed torturing Bruce Campbell, and then he even more than him, he liked to torture his brother Ted.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Ted's in still all of his movies, if not most of them.
Yeah, most of them. I don't think he wasn't in Doctor Strange that I noticed.
That's true. I mean, he had a really like, I think around season 2 he played Chet in Ash vs Evil Dead, and he was reoccurring like. I wouldn't even call him a reoccurring character. I mean, he was a.
He's like he's just a side character, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the one who introduced Pink Fuck, and that's just such a pivotal point in the show.
See, funny enough, I got Stars so I could start watching that, and I only watched the first episode. That's all I had time to watch.
Oh, I got it. It was background noise, but I got to season 3.
See, I remember a lot of the show. I figured I could just go based off that. I did want to bring it up at one point when we're talking about Army of Darkness, though, in particular.
Is it like one of the continuity errors, like with the timeline or something?
No. It's got to do with the ending of the movie.
Oh, I know. I think I know exactly what you're gonna say because I was making notes about it. We're probably thinking about the same thing. But was it? The original cabin they shot in, right? It didn't have a cellar, so they just dug a hole for those shots that Cheryl was in it. And then when they were actually like in the cellar walking around, I think it was Sam Raimi's garage they had outfitted to.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the back and forth they had with Wes Craven and his movies and the Evil Dead and like throwing stuff in from each of theirs.
Well, because speaking of that, I can't remember the guy's name, Mark something, but he was a makeup artist on the second and third Elm Street movies, and he he really wanted to be a part of, if they did a sequel to Evil Dead, he wanted to be a part of that, so he ended up writing to like the head of the studio that distributed, I think it was Dino De Laurentiis, I think that they wrote to.
That sounds right.
Like, hey, can you pass this letter on to Sam Raimi and let him know I'm interested in working on the movie? And the guy was like, yeah, sure. And then he got hired. And so then he started bringing some stuff over.
So he's the one that got them the glove, right, for the second movie?
Yep.
Because I know it was a guy who was working on both movies, or had at one point. I don't know if you noticed that at all, Sam. In the first movie, there was like a Hills Have Eyes poster torn in the background of the cellar. And then in the first Friday the 13th movie, they're showing... It's from the first Evil Dead. Johnny Depp that's what he's watching on his bed before he gets killed. And then you go to the third movie, or the second Evil Dead movie, and when he's in the shed, like doing the is it the chainsaw and everything? I don't know if it's that scene or the one prior. You see the glove that Freddy Krueger has above the door hanging up, and they have like a back and forth. I love that so much.
For some reason, I get the feeling Sam has never seen a Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Okay, why though? I want you to, if you're gonna say something like that, I want you to back it up. Essentially.
Are you talking to me?
No. Yes, I was talking to you. You're the one who made the statement.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just know Sam, and I don't think he's watched a lot of these older horror films.
I have not. No.
Because he was too busy making his own.
It
took him like over a decade to make 3.
Um,
Can I just mention how blessed we were to not have to wait like 5 years in between each of these movies, and that we got all of them and then pretty much the show at one time?
that's very true. Well, I mean, for you, it was at one time with the show.
Well, so I started watching it when I was like 11 or 12. Whenever the remake was announced, I watched the first Evil Dead, and then I was like watching the second one. It took me a few years to ever get to watch Army of Darkness, and then the show started getting released. But it was still in a much fat. I didn't have to wait from 1981 till 2018 to get everything.
Right.
It was like a 6-year span, but still just lucky as all get out.
So Sam, I gotta ask, what in particular did like stood out to you in the first movie? Like that either did not gel with you or that you liked, or
There were some parts I liked. I liked when they first locked the person inside the cellar, and how she was just there throughout the entire movie, basically. And it was like a constant factor. That was cool.
just screaming at them.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is she making those damn noises?
Noises? Her eyes! What happened to her eyes? It's like...
For God's sake, what happened to her eyes?
There's one thing I was a little confused about, right? Why didn't the evil just take over all of them? But I think they kind of gave us an answer to that in the second one, just because, like, I guess strength of will, or like being able to overcome it yourself.
No, that's a good point. I never thought about it because I view it from the point of Ash is Ash. He can't be beaten by it, so it's
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this was
I mean,
was
to be
definitely
fair-
before he was the chosen one.
Yeah. I mean, I guess with that, I would say the only thing is like Cheryl. She'd gotten assaulted by the woods, so it like
Mhm.
infected her first. Linda got the pencil stabbed into her, so then it spreads to her. The one friend just got ripped to shreds. I can't remember his name out of all the characters. I always
I think it was
forget his.
Scott. I
Scott,
think.
yeah,
Scott?
it's
Yeah.
Scott, Linda, Cheryl, Shelly, and Ash.
Oh, I don't know. But like anyway, like they all got like physical damage to them done directly. So then they got infected, and I mean we see Ash in the second one even. We know how he fixes that.
Mhm.
It's just none of them ever thought, oh, maybe I should cut it off at like the calf or the ankle.
Yeah, I did see some people reference this movie as like a zombie movie, which I never really thought of them like that. But
Yeah, I don't.
I definitely thought about that at first, but I changed my mind very quickly on it.
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't consider it a zombie movie at all. But
'Cause, I mean, like, they are undead, right? But it's not.
Well,
They're not. They're
undead
brains. They're not.
well, there's different.
They're still they're conscious.
I mean, there's.
I was gonna say that's the sorry.
No. Go ahead. I
No, so like I think that was the difference is that like they like Linda whoever it is they died and then their bodies got possessed by like a sentient being. So like yeah, their bodies are dead, but there's something inside of them that can think and everything. It's not running off purely motor skills and like instinctual things.
Yeah.
Well, and I just watched a movie called The Sadness on Shudder, like a week ago. It was really, really messed up. Like some of the more messed up stuff I've seen in just like any movie in general. But it's like a zombie movie. It is like labeled a zombie movie, but the whole thing is like it's like this virus that just like it's kind of like rabies, but it just like triggers this thing in your brain where you just want to make people suffer. So they're still like aware and they're still like alive, but they like their whole thing is they have like they come up with the most creative ways to make people suffer and feel pain. And so that's like it's a zombie movie, but you said what?
It's Reddit. that's just Reddit. Like,
but I mean,
like
that's
a Reddit moderator. Yeah.
So there are zombies that are like aware and can like mess with people. So I mean, I guess there's an argument to be made that this could be considered a zombie movie.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I get that.
Especially since they're like, yeah,
demons.
like you said they like bite each other, or there's some sort of physical contact, and then they're possessed.
Bite their own hand off.
Right.
I still don't understand that scene. That's one, like, rewatching the first one, I never understand where her hand gets cut when she has the Kandarian dagger, and she just starts gnawing her own arm off. Like, I think that was purely like a shock factor move.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. It's also, I think that also is supposed to kind of show that, like, when they get stabbed by that, they just, like, react in the most, like, vicious, vile ways. Like, they're just, like, kind of, like, freaking out.
I want to talk about,
or
like,
having
the change.
A negative reaction.
Or, like, the design change, one with the shotgun in the first movie, and then the dagger itself. Like, it got
yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Twice, because it was originally like a single barrel breakaway. And then it went to the double barrel. And then the dagger was like spiny. And then it went to like the actual blade. Or vice versa.
Yeah, I think it's like a steel blade in the first one. And then
Because I remember it being spiny in the second one. But then it's an actual dagger in the TV show.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's weird. There's a lot of like jumping around with these movies, which makes it hard to follow sometimes, but it's also like another point in why I love it, because it's not perfect.
You want to talk about design changes? I didn't notice it until this rewatch, going through and watching them so close together, but that the Necronomicon is different in every movie. It looks at least somewhat different in every movie. I mean, the first one, it's like kind of small and, you know, looking because they had like a very shoestring budget.
Yeah.
But then it's like the second one, it looks like kind of an early version of what we know it to look like now. But then again, in Army of Darkness, it looks different again. Like I noticed that it changes a bit throughout each movie. And there's stuff like that kind of makes it where like people, like, I know there's a big debate about whether or not Evil Dead 2 is a remake or a sequel.
A requel.
Yeah, some people use that term.
Well, I think what Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell themselves have like argued that it's a sequel, because even in the TV show and stuff, they pull parts from both. Because if you go strictly off of the sequel, Cheryl and none of them went to the woods, but in the TV show, Cheryl shows back up. Like, sorry, spoiler alert, it's only been finished for like 4 years. So I think they both defend that it's a sequel, and it's really just them pulling parts from each one that they want, and now they're kind of polishing it off.
Right.
So yeah. I think with all of the context we have now, we can consider it a sequel easily.
Well, yeah, I definitely, because I did notice, like, like I said, I rewatched the first episode of the show earlier today, and I noticed that, yeah, when he was talking about what happened in the woods, he was talking about the events from the first movie. And a lot of people are like, well, it's a remake because, like, they changed what happened and they rehashed the whole first movie in the beginning of the second one. But I found out the only reason they even did that was they couldn't get the rights to the footage for the first movie. So I don't think it's like they necessarily wanted to do that. They just had to save time and get people who hadn't seen the first one caught up. So they just reshot it. Basically did the same story, and then it picks up right after he gets hit by the force, starts flying backwards through the woods.
Yeah.
That's where the continuity starts.
Yeah, it's rough.
And then they do the same thing with Army of Darkness, where it starts.
It's even a new actor who plays Linda every single time.
Yeah, it's always she's got like a
Linda
different
looks
hairstyle.
in the third one. Yeah, it's clearly a different woman, but it's also like, you're just gonna are you gonna bring back the same actor who had a horrible experience in the first one for a 5-minute cameo in this next one?
Right.
You're like, she's gonna die anyway. Let's just get somebody new. Like, it doesn't matter.
This is true.
As long as Bruce Campbell's there, we're good. Yeah. No, I mean, the movie, I'm jumping back a little bit. The movie was like originally X-rated, then they got bumped down to NC-17. So that I can't say that's still any better, but it was hard to get people into it just because of that fact alone. All the gore and stuff. I know you're talking about being over the top, Sam. It really did. I don't think it got popular because it took them 5 or 6 years to make the sequel.
Well, funny enough, I guess Sam Raimi, he did this gimmicky thing
Oh, mhm.
where he put ambulances outside the premiere of the first movie to like make people, because he wanted people to think like there's a chance something might happen to me watching this movie.
Yeah. Was that with Evil Dead showing, or was that with the Within the Woods?
You
Because I
said
know it
what?
was like one of the early screenings. I wasn't sure if that was when they actually debuted Evil Dead, or
No,
if that
yeah,
was still like
it was the Evil Dead premiere.
okay.
It was in Detroit.
So, 'cause I know he had that early like short film called Within the Woods, which was
That
the like precursor to
Well,
Evil
yeah, that
Dead.
was like what they went around and showed potential investors to like get them
Okay.
interested. And that's how they got like these dentists and stuff on board to like give them money.
Dentists.
Yeah, that was the main thing I found
Well, like-
interesting in this documentary I watched was they kept saying, "Yeah, we got a bunch of dentists and doctors to give us money for this." Dentists and doctors aren't going to show up on set and like ask you what you're doing and try and fix the camera angle. They don't care about any of that. They just want to make their money back.
Well, if you look at the poster for the original movie, it does say like 4 out of 5 dentists approve.
Does it really?
No, it doesn't.
I was like, I don't think
Absolutely
I've
not.
seen that. I was like, maybe it was one I hadn't seen.
No, but on some of the newer ones, or I don't know if it's the old one, it was like a quote from, because Stephen King like backed this movie. He got a hold of investors for the second one because he absolutely adored it. So like he was one of the biggest supporters.
Yeah,
And I know his review is on like some of the old posters for it.
yeah. Well, because he saw it. Because I guess what happened was, I don't remember exactly how it happened, but somebody like overseas became interested in the movie, so it got like a big release in like in Europe. It had its big initial release in Europe, and I think it ended up at the. I'm probably gonna. I never know how to say it, but the Cannes Film Festival.
Something.
It
like
was
that.
there, and Stephen King saw it, and it like instantly became like he said
Top 5.
his fifth favorite horror film of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was like the most original, I don't remember the exact quote, but it was like the most incredibly original horror film he had ever seen. And so that was like the quote they used, and that was what got like people in the States interested, and then it finally got like a wide release in the US like a year later.
Just like having him, that had to have been like a huge relief for them. Having Stephen King come in and like, listen, guys, like you did it. This is amazing.
Right.
You're like you really had to feel like you were getting traction after that, especially because you're like, okay, like we're actually gonna get somewhere with this. It's gonna be great.
Well, they said that they ended up bringing back, like, they gave back to their investors like 3.5 times what they had invested.
Oh yeah, because it pulled in so much.
Yeah,
more than
so
the-
it was definitely a success, and a lot of like kids were eating it up at like the drive-ins and stuff. So that's, I mean, people knew about this movie when it came time to do the sequel. That there was a lot of hype around a second one coming.
You know, there was one man in like a '73 Oldsmobile Delta '88. That movie came on, and he just absolutely just went crazy in the drive. Like, that's my car. He's like, that's my car. Bro. Like, I'm basically Ash Williams.
Everybody's taking pictures next to it after the movie.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but like this car, this one, it came out of the exact same like assembly line as the one in that movie. He's like, I looked up the serial numbers for it. And then, so Sam, besides Evil Dead, how many like Sam Raimi movies have you seen? Besides from like the original like Spider-Man movies.
Spider-Man. That's about as far as I know.
Okay, well then
Can you name some? I'll tell you if I've seen them.
Well, there's one that's, oh god, I mean, I'm blanking now.
There's a
You
Simple
have the new
Plan.
Doctor Strange movie.
There's Simple Plan. There's Dark Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the new Doctor Strange movie. He did a movie. So between Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, he wasn't the. Or maybe he was the director. I think he was the writer for this movie called Crime Wave, and then the Coen brothers directed it, or it's the other way around. I'm not sure, but that was a total flop. And they hated making that movie so much that after that, that's when they decided to go back to the Evil Dead, because there was like some traction behind making a sequel. But they were like kind of hesitant to, if they even wanted to make another movie, because they had such a bad time making that one.
Yeah.
What I
I'm
was
looking
getting
through a list.
towards was that Oldsmobile is in every single one of his movies. It's the car that Uncle Ben drives in the original Spider-Man movie. It's been over a week, and Doctor Strange is just kind of in a background shot of like this apocalyptic world.
I was gonna say I couldn't find it when I went and saw that.
Oh, I saw it immediately. Well,
Also,
that's the difference between you and I. I was looking for the Oldsmobile.
Well, I was too, because you had said it was in there. I just,
Okay.
I'm I also, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't that impressed with Doctor Strange.
That
Well,
movie
don't say
was
anything. I
Evil
haven't seen
Dead.
it.
It was basically, yeah, I won't say any details or anything. It was basically like almost like the Evil Dead, but I wanted a little bit more multiverse in my Multiverse of Madness movie.
I think okay, not to get on this topic too much. We're not talking about it. I think people got themselves way too overhyped for that movie.
I did.
A lot out of it, especially after Spider-Man.
I will admit my expectations were really high that there was going to be some crazy in this movie, and there was it was a little underwhelming, especially after Spider-Man. Like, it's just, I don't know.
I loved it, but
I liked it for what it was, and I really liked the villain, but other than that, I don't know.
Oh, I loved the villain. I'm pissed about what happened. Anyway, move on. I could go on a tangent. I'm very I loved that movie. I have so many issues with it though.
I need to rewatch it. But
absolutely.
I'm in the same boat as Sam there, where I don't think I've seen any other Sam Raimi movies besides these. Of course, the Evil Dead series. I know he at least did the first episode, and I think he did some other ones, and then the Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah,
I looked up a list of the movies that he had. The only one on there that I have seen was The Jungle Book, but that I looked it up. That's Jon Favreau. So I don't know why it's on a list of Sam Raimi's movies.
I was gonna say
that does remind me though. He did do Sam Raimi did do Oz the Great and Powerful, that James Franco Wizard of Oz movie, which I'm not gonna lie,
I did see that.
I went and saw that in theaters, and me and my friends walked out in the middle of it.
Holy
dude, there's no movie you could get me to walk out of. Those tickets are so expensive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit my ass down for the entirety. I'll take a nap. I don't care. But I'm gonna be in there for like the hour and 45. I paid for it.
Well, part of it was the friends I was with. They wanted to leave, and I wasn't gonna be that one guy that because I want to stay for the whole movie, I'm gonna make like 4 other people stay. So I was just all right, fine.
That's why I drive everywhere.
Well, that's
you can leave.
Well, that's the other thing.
Not going.
as a passenger, a lifelong passenger, I didn't have that kind of pull, you know.
Dude, just get your license.
I'm working on it. All right, I'm working on it.
I've got like a broken down car. I'll give you. You can build it up like Army of Darkness. And just have like a death weapon.
Just gotta make sure it's street legal.
Not to spoil what's coming up next, but some crazy shit happens in the Middle Ages.
Okay, so back to the first movie though. There's a scene in particular I was it did kind of irk me a little bit on this rewatch. I don't know if irked, but I was just like, why? So somebody, they're hearing the noises down in the cellar before they find like the Necronomicon and stuff. And one of them's like, well, maybe it's an animal. And Scotty laughs at them and is like, an animal? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, that couldn't be possible. And then,
in this abandoned cabin.
And then,
in the woods.
right after that, somebody else is like, well, yeah, maybe she's right. Maybe it is an animal. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right.
I remember that.
That's because Scotty's just a pushover. That's what it comes down to.
He's a simp, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, essentially,
Oh,
Scotty's just a bitch.
You know, maybe I didn't think about that. Maybe it was I couldn't tell who was saying what, but maybe it was that his girlfriend was the second person to say it's an animal, and so he's like,
He's just a
oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
probably right. Maybe that is what it was. I don't know. That just that kind of. I was like, what the hell?
You know, Scotty's like, clearly it's a Necronomicon. Like, it's not an animal. That's crazy.
he knew what they walked into.
He planned this trip. He's like, screw Jacksonville. We're going to Tennessee. The place so nice, they named it Jacksonville. Ugh. I don't know how I feel about Scotty. Or Scott. I'm gonna call him Scotty. It's fine. But, I don't know. He is the one person I don't mind watching just getting absolutely murdered.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably the clearest example of Ash being like very terrified through most of the first movie is that scene where I think it's Scotty's girlfriend is like coming after him to kill him, and Ash is standing there in the corner with the axe, and he's like, hit it, hit it. Hit it!
I remember that, yeah.
And Ash is just kind of sitting there, so then he grabs the axe and starts going at it. I honestly, I didn't mind Scotty. I just, I mean, I like how he went outside at one point to get out of there, and then he came back, and he looked like he had been mauled by a bear, and Ash is like, it's all right.
I'm amazed
it's
he
all
made it back.
Yeah, and then he's like, it's all right, Scotty. We're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here alive. You're all right. And it's like, he looks like he just got mauled by a bear.
No, that's the thing. I had a couple notes about that. One where it's like, you really see Ash's psyche break whenever he's just pouring water into Scott's mouth and it just coming out because he's dead. And he's just sitting there, he's like, we're gonna be all right, buddy. He's like, he's like, Forrest, I just want to go home. He's like, it's gonna be all right, Bubba. And he just thought, but no, yeah, that got me. Just watching it foam back out of his mouth. He's like, we're gonna be all right, Scott. Like, we're gonna go home. And then there are 2 times in the first movie, Ash's greatest enemy turned out to be like a bookshelf.
I was just about to say that.
No, I literally meant it was like 2 times. He succumbs to my note exactly was 2 times Ash succumbs to a shelf/bookcase. And it's because it just falls on him. His arm goes through one of the things, and he's just sitting there like wriggling with it like a bird with its head caught in a 6-pack ring. He just doesn't know what to do, and he's freaking out. And I was just like, are you serious? I'm like, your friend's getting murdered, and you're like, this damn bookshelf.
And he's like, I
and
can't.
my arm's stuck through it.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
And no, like that's obviously again why I love the movie, because it's stupid moments like that, and you're just it adds to it. The low budgetness of that movie really just makes it what it is.
Well, it's like I mean, yeah, it's not like a comedy in the sense of like the second one and the third one, but it does still have funny stuff in it. It's a different type of funny, and it's part of the charm of it being like so low budget. And they said that they set out to make like almost like a fun house or something where you like you go in for some thrills, and then you go home and forget about it. And that was kind of what they were going for, is like, it's like, it's not supposed to be extremely terrifying, but more just like an enjoyable, fun ride. Which is why I thought it was interesting. I saw an interview Sam Raimi did, like, in between Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, where somebody asked him if he regretted putting in the scene where, was it Cheryl gets attacked by the tree out in the woods and she gets assaulted?
Yeah, like in the very beginning.
Yeah.
It gets graphic.
He said that they asked if he regretted putting it in there, and he said he did, because he found afterwards that some people thought it was like offensive. They were offended by it, and that wasn't what he set out to do. He set out to give people like a fun, thrilling experience, and not like and entertain, not offend. So if he had the chance to redo it, he probably wouldn't have put that in there.
Ash is a good employee. Can we talk about that? He didn't walk out of his job. He still got somebody to cover. As much as you want to deny it.
Well, I love that. I'm jumping forward a bit here, but honestly, all the way to the end of Army of Darkness, my favorite line. It might be my favorite line in the entire series. That woman turns into a deadite, and then he shoots her, and he's like, "Lady, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the store."
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
I don't know why I
don't you
love
wish
that
you
one.
could just do that sometimes? that hit hard, like that hit close to home with anybody who's ever had to work with assholes like that. It's like, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. There's two scenes in the first one I just found hysterical. It's when I think it's Linda's his girlfriend, right? It is Linda.
Yeah, Cheryl's his sister. Linda's his
like,
girlfriend.
Shelly is Scott's girlfriend.
Yep.
It's when Linda's sitting in the doorway, just crisscross, and you get the shot of it's from behind her facing Ash, and he just starts backhanding the deadite version of her. And I know it's horrible, but it's like I really just like the idea of a man backhanding a literal demon multiple times, and it just sits there and takes it.
Well, that.
And then,
sorry, just real quick, that reminded me because those contacts she's wearing in that scene, like all of them when they're possessed, they get these like all white eyes, and those were like old contacts, and I guess they didn't have holes in them, so you literally could not see through them. When you put those in, you were blind, and there were strict rules that you could only wear them like 5 times a day for 15 minutes at a time. And like you said earlier, they didn't have any amenities in the cabin, so they didn't have any water to clean these off with, and they didn't have like saline solutions, really expensive. So to clean those out, they used coffee. Can you imagine how
the coffee boy.
terrible?
It's caffeine.
Can you imagine how terrible? That's
caffeine.
Just another thing to add on to how terrible it was to make that movie is just those contacts.
I think they were saying like the closest thing that they could like recreate to be like how it looked seeing through those are like taping Tupperware to your face. They're like that's what it would feel like. It's like you just can't see. And then so when Scott's the first one to like use the axe in the whole movie, and he's chopping up one of the women. I think it's Shelly. I was like, and Ash is just looking on in horror. I could only imagine this is what the investors were looking at. Like, watching the movie felt like. It's just this, like, what the hell is going on? Like, just like, ugh. But, however, how they ever got funding for this movie, I'm still amazed. Because at the time, it was just so horrendous. But
I think they said that they would, like, when they were trying to get, like, just the audience of potential investors, they'd be like, hey, so we're looking for investors in this movie. We're curious if we could show you Within the Woods, which is an old movie we've made. And it's like basically what the Evil Dead's going to be. You think we could come over and show it to you? And the potential investors would kind of be like, I don't know. And they'd be like, great. So what time should we be over there? And then they just kind of like force their way in the door. And I think they were like really pushy. And then they were just hoping that after they saw it, they'd be like, all right, so how much do you want to invest?
Yeah, it really was like a door-to-door salesman. He's like, hey, like, we've got this great product.
Yeah.
And then they put their foot through the doorway, and they're like, let me show you how it works.
Also, earlier you you mentioned how like the basement or the cellar was part of Sam's garage. I guess also that scene where after he burns the Necronomicon and the 2 deadites that are left standing start decaying right in front of his eyes, and it goes to that like cool looking stop motion. I guess the guy who did that stop motion, he filmed those scenes in Sam Raimi's garage, so the background when those stop motion figures are like falling, the part of his garage looked like the interior of the cabin, so they just used that spot and filmed those shots there in his garage as well. Which I just love the look of those stop motion.
Oh,
yeah, that was pretty
they're
cool.
like, it took so long for them to do that. but it worth it in the long run because I do love that stop motion. Just watching them like almost melt away
and just turn into jelly.
While you're talking about burning the Necronomicon, let's talk about burning it and how that only works in one movie. And none of the others. They really went, that's too easy. No.
Well, that's like even in the remake. In the remake, there's literally a scene where they have it in like a bucket on fire, and the dude's just like,
he's like, it won't burn.
It just doesn't burn. You can't burn it. And then it's like, yeah, the complete opposite of the first movie.
I know, we see that they burn it once. I'm like, that was surprisingly easy. Like, why didn't they think about throwing it in the fire literally after Cheryl just goes crazy?
Yeah.
One thing I love that they did in the remake that they bring up, one thing that they did in the remake that was in the first one is the necklace that they gave to, it's Jane Levy's character. It's the like same design and everything, except it's made out of like
wood.
Like wood, twine, whatever, compared to the metal. I loved that they did that.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of. We'll get into it a little bit throughout this, but there are a lot of references in that like people who hadn't seen the originals, they wouldn't have gotten it all. But as like diehard fans, you're like, yeah, like obviously like the
Oldsmobile.
Yeah, the Oldsmobile, like they're sitting on it. Yeah, and it's just broken down in the background.
So you know about like the after credit scene with Bruce Campbell in that, right?
Yeah, I stuck around. Yeah. I stuck around in the theater to watch that.
I wish I was old enough at the time to see it in theaters, which I'm sure probably hurts you to hear that I was not old enough to go see that by myself.
Yeah, funny enough, I went with the same people who wanted to walk out of Oz, walked out of Silver Linings Playbook.
With Jennifer Lawrence and like
and Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper, Rocket Raccoon.
But they were completely into the Evil Dead remake.
Well, because it was good.
Yeah, it was.
It was actually awesome.
It was a lot of because I mean it's like the story's a little paper thin. I mean they definitely add a little bit more than the original Evil Dead movie, but it is still kind of like a flimsy plot. It's just everything happening so visceral and in your face. But I guess like a common thing with that movie was it played really, really well with an audience. Like audiences in theaters ate that shit up. And it makes sense.
I wanna stream the remake in this chat and watch it with you.
Dude, that's
I do.
That sounds awesome.
That'd be probably
like I will buy it on like Prime or something.
See,
I will stream it, and I'd love to watch it. I think that's what's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, I'm down. I'll join.
Because
I think the thing is, Discord with most streaming services, there's a problem with Discord with most streaming services. They have a way to like block the video.
Dude, I've been on that since like 2018. I can stream Netflix. I can just stream Google, Amazon.
Nice.
Listen, it's all good, man.
Yeah, because I ran into that problem like last week because I was trying to watch like a Disney movie in a Discord channel.
Netflix is by far the worst one. I've never had a lot of issues with Amazon, but anyway.
Dude, I tried
We'll watch it.
I tried to screen record some footage from Mandy to use in the Nicolas Cage episode when I was editing it, and OBS literally just black screened.
Yeah.
The footage, like when I tried to record it, it was just a black screen.
I'll get some fixes for you guys. It'll buff out.
Nice.
I mean, I found footage of it already recorded. It was just edited down, so I had to use that. But I was just
There's a scene I need to pull up. Oh shit! Hold on. Sorry, keep going.
But speaking of stuff that can burn, I guess the cabin that they used for the first movie, it burnt down like a year after filming because some asshole
like
kids went in there. Yeah,
really?
And they had a party, and then they burnt the cabin down.
Yeah, there's like a time. What Sam Raimi and everybody says that there's like a time capsule they buried around like where the original fireplace was, but now it's on private property, or at least the owners now are very like anal about not letting anybody on it because obviously the movie's a huge hit, so now people are always trying to go up there and like steal bricks from the foundation, and it's just really hard because I was watching the original with a friend of mine not too long ago, And I was like, I wanted to look up the location because I was like, if it's somewhere we can go, I'm like, I would just love to go there and get pictures around the area. But some people own the property now, so you just gotta. Hopefully, they're old. And
And their aim's bad, right?
and you can
Hopefully their aim is bad,
you can
yeah.
fight them really easily.
I'm gonna walk up with like a chainsaw arm and the shotgun. I'm like, listen, buddy, I just want pictures. But if we gotta go one way with this,
Yeah, I got my boomstick.
yeah, so
You
this
better
is my
watch out.
boomstick. I wonder how many times somebody said that to him. He's like, just get the f- off my property.
Look here, you damn nerd. If you don't get off my property, I'm going to get my boomstick.
Boomstick.
But mine is a pump
And, you know,
action.
He's got those shaking hands and everything.
I
He's
served
he's
in
just
Nam.
How do I? Okay, I gotta timestamp something. I'm gonna send it to Discord because this has always been my favorite scene from the TV show.
Sam, anything else stick out to you or irk you?
About like the first one?
Yeah.
Really? No, not much. Yeah, I think it basically said everything. So.
I think this really sums up where the series went.
Did you put it in the Discord?
Yeah, I put it in general. I timestamped it so you'll start right where I wanted it.
Oh
to.
God, I know.
Yeah, I remember my grandparents had an old Dell computer and I bought the first season on DVD, stayed up an entire night watching it on these like old plug-in speakers, and I rewatched this scene probably like 12 times. I just laughed my ass off every single time. I thought it was the best thing ever.
Yeah, Sam,
But-
you do need to watch this show at some point too. I mean, I guess it might not be for you if you weren't like a big fan of the movies, but it's a hardcore continuation of the Ash saga.
Yeah.
And it's
he's-
just perfect.
He's older, he's like a wannabe playboy,
Yeah,
and he's just awesome.
that was
and he's
an-
still badass.
well, he's definitely still badass, but I noticed that in the show, like they made it very clear in the first episode, he's way more like a douchebag.
He's not like a loyal man anymore. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's like Linda.
He's a
And now it's just like, oh my God, I never even made that connection to where in the second season he meets his old high school girlfriend. He's like, you were my first Linda. I'm dumb. I just got that. But he's like, this is like my third Linda. He always refers to them as like a numerical Linda, and it's amazing.
He's like a racist douchebag
Yeah, he
playboy
is.
guy, and it seems like an odd turn for his character, but I guess after dealing with that much bull crap
He's
in
from
like
the 80s.
in like 8 days, however long it went from first showing up to the cabin in the first movie to the end of Army of Darkness, it was only a few days. So I mean, I guess that'll change a man, but
I'll say he's not like aggressively racist. He doesn't realize he's being racist.
yeah.
And he means the best, but he just doesn't understand the difference between he's Mexican and what was he? Damn it, I can't remember, but whatever Pablo was. Because I remember specifically a line in the show. He goes, "Then after this, we're gonna get some churros," and he's like, "And that's not a racial thing, Pablo. That's just an amazing dessert." And he's like, "I'm not Mexican." And he goes, "That's the spirit." I was like, "What the hell, dude?" Like, this show's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, it's just an interesting
I
direction
don't know
for
if I'm
the
allowed to say
character.
that.
But
All right, so I just have one more nitpick with the first one. I remembered. There's so many scenes, right, where everyone gets covered in blood.
Where'd you go?
And the next scene, they're clean. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, I
mean,
think that not only
I get it, right? I
wait,
get
what
it.
is it? What? Oh, you said, and then the next scene they're clean.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I get it, but it's just it's a small nitpick.
well,
that's fair.
I don't know exactly what the situation is with like the first movie so much, but I saw like an example that makes sense with that one. For the second one is that like the scene where Ash shoots the wall and then it starts spraying blood everywhere. They had to film that scene last. That was the very final thing they filmed because it
Okay.
absolutely destroyed the set. So they
So-
had to like save that for the finale, and I think they probably only had one shot at making
Yeah,
that.
if they get it wrong that time.
Yeah, so Ash being clean after that kind of made sense just from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah.
And-
That's why I said it's just a small nitpick. It's
And
not-
also, I
No,
think it might be kind of like a thing where maybe some of it is just in their heads to a degree. I don't know. It kind of adds to the whole thing just messing with them.
And honestly, and again, that gets kind of fixed in the remake because for most of the remake, it's shot sequentially.
Yeah.
Like, each scene was done like in order of how it should have been, or how it falls out in the timeline. So I mean, I'll have to watch it again and pay attention to that specifically, but I don't think there's that big of an issue.
Well, like what you said with the remake, there's like a scene where a character he gets attacked and his eye gets kind of messed up. I don't want to say what happens. It's one of my favorite moments in the movie.
Oh, it is. It's like a Saw moment almost.
Oh, by the way, a little bit off topic, but I figured out while I was rewatching the remake that is not the same guy from X.
Oh, I wasn't gonna out you like that. I went and looked at the cast and went, "Mother." I was like,
I
"Not
was
the same fucking guy at all."
I was really disappointed because I'm like watching it and I'm like, wait, that guy doesn't look exactly. The characters look very
Oh, he's
similar.
the same character,
but
it's just a sad, nerdy guy who wears like the same glasses as I do.
and like their facial hair and their hair are the same.
Mhm.
But it's so
Yeah.
it just duped me, and I figured that out while I was watching the remake. I was like, well, now I look like an asshole.
Yeah, you do. I was rewatching the remake. I'm like, this is not the same man. And then I went back and I was fact checking that. And I was like, this doesn't line up at all. I'm like, two different men.
Hey, well, please next time call me out on it when you figure it out, so that way I know.
I was waiting until we got on stream, buddy. But
but
sorry,
yeah,
moving on.
but sorry, but that guy, he gets like his eye gets messed up a little bit, and then for the rest of the movie, he's like kind of squinting in that eye, like it's for the remake, that whole thing where they like things don't affect them past that scene. That's not part of the remake. That when they get something happens to them, it's you can see it for the rest of the movie. So. Yeah. That might be another thing that...
This has nothing to do with the movies. I mean, it does. It's Jane Levy. But, like, saw that movie at, like, a weird point in my life, dude. I had the biggest crush on her. Like, I was obsessed with her as a man. She was... Oh. And then Don't Breathe came out, and I'm like, it's coming back.
See,
I was like, my love for you is just reigniting.
I'm the same way, but I have not seen all of Don't Breathe. I think I've started that movie like 3 times and I've never finished it. I actually even know how it ends at this point, but I haven't. If I have seen it, I forgot it. Like,
oh my god,
shortly after watching it.
Good movie, but it pissed me off for one scene, and I brought it up to my English teacher, and she said I was just looking into it too much. But I was like, you're literally you were the person who was sealed. He said this was a red door, so he's describing anger. I'm like, you can't tell me about reading too much into it. Because on it, there is a scene where somebody shoots and they're up at the top of the stairs, right? There is a person standing flat on the legal paper. The bullet hole is not angled, it's straight through. And it made me so angry. I was like, this is not... I'm like, no. I was like, that's not how it works. She's like, you're reading too much into it. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I know how bullet trajectory works on a basic level. It's like, I'm not reading too much into it.
Have you never seen Wanted?
But I won. She's dead now. Huh?
Wait, what?
What's Wanted?
You don't know what Wanted is? Hold on. Okay.
Describe it to me. It might come to me. Hold on.
Before we go on, did you just say
no. If you think you heard it. Oh, you mean curving the bullet?
Yeah. Wanted. Let
me tell you what my only exposure to that movie was a parody version of it in Disaster Movie. Where the bullet curves 360 into Carmen Electra's head.
That movie is actually really badass. That movie's got a great cast, and James McAvoy is awesome in that movie.
James McAvoy?
Yeah, he's the lead guy. And there's a scene early on where funny enough, there's this guy who's like kind of an asshole to him at work.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, this might be another thing like the guy from X versus the guy in the remake, but
I'm gonna get on that right now. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure the guy that he's got messing with him in the office is Chris Pratt. It's like an early Chris Pratt, and he smacks the shit out of him with an office keyboard.
Yeah, he does.
And it is awesome. He's like he's like leaving work because he's about to go join this organization that's like super badass, and then he slaps this dude with a keyboard, and I think it's Chris Pratt.
That's awesome. I wanted to make a little side note before we get into Evil Dead. Oh, it is Chris Pratt as Barry.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, you're right.
He's like,
I'll give you this one. You got it.
He's like such a tool that he's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna this dude up on my way out the door, and just like he like says
Star-Lord.
He says some joke, and then he just slaps him with a keyboard, and then it's got that slow mo where the keys are like going towards the camera as they're flying off the keyboard.
But I do not have a ton of notes written down for Evil Dead 2. This week's been a little crazy, but I have stuff just in general that I will like comment on, acknowledge it. I'm not going to be super vocal because I don't want to get anything wrong, but I've got more down for Army of Darkness and again the show a lot more than anything. If we're going to get into that, I'm going to take a quick like 2-second break, and you can kind of lead us off if you want.
Okay, Doug.
I'm not trying to take over this. I just
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on most of the first Evil Dead. Let me see. I have a separate page of just fun facts. So I'm trying to see if
Oh yeah, dude, that's what I've realized. I've done more though. More so is like making my comments on like the first movie. I'm writing down facts and stuff that I remember, because as much as I love the movies, I love what all goes into them. The stuff that happens behind the scenes just as much. Oh, also all the Dutch angles Sam Raimi pulls out in the first movie, and like how they're reading, like saying that the cast was completely surprised by that. They weren't expecting him to. I thought that was great.
The what?
The Dutch angles that he pulls out when he's filming.
Oh, like with the camera?
It's literally just like angled. Like you see a lot of his close-ups to where it just goes, and then it's like they said to describe it, it's like literally looking at the movie and then just tilting your head.
Yeah, I guess because I was watching like it was a documentary where like a bunch of filmmakers were talking about what the Evil Dead, the first one, meant to them. Actually, one of them was Eli Roth and Tarantino talking, and
Really?
And
we got to get to Tarantino.
I do want to do a Tarantino episode, but they were saying that the Evil Dead taught them, well, for Eli Roth it was that whole thing about like you didn't have to be from Hollywood to make an awesome movie like that, but for Tarantino and even Guillermo del Toro, they said that it was the camera angles, just what he did with the camera in that movie liberated cameras for future films. Like that I think it was Guillermo del Toro said that after that, is either him or Tarantino said that after that, like I think it was Tarantino, he said that after that every other film that came before it, the camera work felt outdated. After that it was a whole new ball game because of what he did with the cameras.
I mean, that's fair.
And it just like kind of liberated it from that having to just like sit in one position and be at a certain angle. Like now you could just do whatever you wanted with it, and if you know how to do
absolutely.
it could work.
I mean, again, we go back to, he was a 20-year-old kid from Michigan who he didn't have all the hookups for the cameras that were going to be like ziplining across, catching everything, circling around. It was most of it was handheld. Or all of it was handheld. And it was them just kind of making do with what they had, and it really did it. Like you said, it freed up the angles, or like Tarantino or Del Toro said.
Well, and
it's crazy.
I guess, before this, they had only been making like Super 8 movies in their neighborhood, and what it was like, one of them had a camera and a good like audio setup. One of them had like some skills as a director, and then they had Bruce Campbell, and all the girls like Bruce Campbell, so they were like, he's gonna go in front of the camera and we're gonna go behind the camera. And So they apparently a lot of those guys like grew up together, not necessarily in the same neighborhood, but close enough that they would get together and just make movies together.
Shit. They're ignoring it, but all the guys like Bruce Campbell too.
Well,
Like
I said,
the guys wanted to be him, the girls wanted to be with him, and he was happy.
He kind of looks a little doughy in the first one. He still looks great, but he doesn't have that. When I started watching Evil Dead 2, the first thing I noticed was I was like, holy shit, he looks really good in this one.
He's hot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. He got hot.
He's
he's
a hunk in this one. I don't know. He got on some really good program between the first one and the second one, and he came in there looking like a hero.
Maybe they did like the 300 thing to where they just took those like dehydration pills and just like really just or that, or I think the actual thing was it was just from the first movie. They just lived so poorly during the filming of that. They're like, well, we're running around a lot, not eating that much. He's like, of course I got a 6-pack, even though it's like 5 years later.
Oh yeah, I guess outside of Bruce Campbell, that cast was mainly to like community theater kids or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like they weren't like friends of theirs necessarily or anything. They were just community theater kids that they hired, and so it was exciting when they started doing the second one that they were able to get like a legit cast and go around and cast people. And I have some notes on that. Well, yeah, the girl who played Bobby Joe. So interestingly enough, the girl
was in a few other things.
Well, the girl who played her ended up being like, I guess she's been on One Life to Live, I think it is, for like the last 20 years. But I guess originally that role was supposed to go to Holly Hunter from like Silence of the Lambs. And part of the reason for that was because between Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2, Sam Raimi was living in an apartment with Holly Hunter, the Coen brothers, Frances McDormand, and Kathy Bates. That just blows my mind that much talent could be living under one roof.
I want to live with Kathy Bates.
I don't think you would.
Like, no. I don't care if it's a Misery setup. Like, she could break my ankles. You gotta, like, you're like, even in that scenario, it's like when you're being berated on the line as a cook, you're like, but I'm learning. you're like, I'm learning from this. I'm gonna dip out for like 2 seconds. I will be right back. I'm sorry.
All right, no, you're good. Yeah. Damn, Sam, I was kind of hoping you would be all about this.
I would like to. Yeah, I mean, I'll say it was a fun movie, right? That's okay. That's not fair. That's how I describe a lot of movies I don't like. I just call it fun. But no, I did enjoy it. I just thought it was a little too much. But...
and that is one thing. I think it was more with the second one than the first one, but they did say like this is not a movie that necessarily everyone's gonna enjoy. It's one of those things, particularly I think with the second one because of the way that it changes and goes a little more into the goofy comedy and stuff. That it's not like a movie you're gonna show all your friends and they're all gonna love it, or you're gonna show like your parents or even like a girl you like or something. They're not all gonna get it. It's one of those things that you just. I think it really hits home for like cinema nerds and like future filmmakers, like people who want to make a movie. They look at these and they say, "Holy shit, I could do that," and that's part of what just makes it so prolific even today. I mean, it's considered one of the like greatest horror franchises of all time.
Yeah.
I've been exposed to this for a long time. My uncle showed me, I probably said this story a number of times, but my uncle showed me the first Army of Darkness when I was like 8 years old. So,
really?
Yeah, so because he lived, at the time, he lived with my grandparents, and I would go and visit them for summer break. And so I lived in Michigan and they lived in Columbus. So when I would go visit my grandparents, I'd be with them for like a month. And my room was right next door to his. and we did everything together when I was there. I loved hanging out with my uncle. He was like my best friend, and he showed me in the same summer. He introduced me to. He had a VHS tape of Spaceballs and a VHS tape of Army of Darkness, and he was like, because he knew I would when I went to bed at night. My grandparents would put me into bed, and then I'd get up. I had a TV and a VHS player in my room. So he gave me the VHS tapes, and he's like, watch these at some point. And so
That's a good uncle.
And I watched Army of Darkness, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I didn't get a lot of it, but I knew I really liked it. And that movie has just stuck with me. And over the years, as I've watched it, I've grown to love it more and more. Mm-hmm. Just because I think it is partially a nostalgia factor, but also it's Bruce Campbell at his most Bruce Campbell-y. And just being like really a badass. But yeah, so I don't remember when I watched the first Evil Dead or the second one. I know I watched them at some point not long after Army of Darkness, but I didn't really remember them. And then I rewatched them when I was like a freshman or sophomore. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I had found out that they were getting ready to remake Evil Dead, which turned out to be the 2013 remake. So to get myself ready, I watched the first and second one, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe I don't remember these movies. These are awesome.
So are we going on then, I guess, the tirades, like how we got started on it and everything?
Yeah, I mean, we can. We know how Sam got introduced to this, but...
Yeah.
Sam, you're welcome. I'm sorry if you didn't like them. You're wrong, but you're welcome. You will come to love them. Like, I don't... It's just one of those things, like, you're gonna have to, because they are... I've still always said that, like, this is gonna sound dumb. People always ask me, because I'm like, whether it's, like, Tinder, meeting somebody, whatever, they're like, well, what's your favorite horror movie? Because, like, that's a huge part of who I am. And like I have all that from my mom. Like my dad hated horror movies, so as a kid, that's what I would watch with her.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always like, well, I'm like, if we're talking, I always break it up. I'm like, if we're talking about like old movies, like it's Evil Dead trilogy by far. I just love everything about them. Even now they're just actually just my favorite ones in general. Not because like they're the best or anything, but it's genuinely so much love and effort went into them. And they have come such a far way. It's like watching a child grow. I love it.
Yeah.
But I got involved with them when I was like 12 years old because of the remake. They put the original one on Netflix. So I remember my mom fell asleep on the couch as we were watching it. But like I remember watching it, and there's a scene where I think it's Shelly. She's undressing in front of a window, and you see some side boob. And me being 12, I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm glad my mom's asleep because I'm like, I wouldn't be allowed to watch this, right? I'm like, this is a really big moment. Fell in love with it just because I loved old horror movies. Like one of the first ones I ever saw was The Tingler. If you have any idea what that is, like,
never even heard of that.
Exactly.
I'm writing that down.
I actually saw an ad for it not too long ago. It's crazy, and that movie scared me as a child. They put the second one on Netflix. I was probably 12 or 13 when that came out, and I remember specifically finishing it right before church to the point where I was like, I was in my button up, my slacks, my shoes, and I'm standing in front of our TV watching it. And it's as he just looks up at the sky and he's like yelling because he's in medieval times, and it ends. And then I had to go to church, and I'm like, all I could think about were demons, which I guess like, okay, cool. Like it's appropriate. And one Christmas, I asked for Army of Darkness. I didn't get it. I was like, whatever. I ended up buying it for myself. And I'm like, okay, I got the Blu-ray Screwhead edition, and I was watching it on my PlayStation. And I had like a movie night set up for myself, you know, like as you did as a kind of, I'm not gonna say I was a kid, I was a freshman, but I was still so excited. I can't describe the feeling. I got it again earlier today when I was watching Army of Darkness, when that initial score comes on and it's like Renaissance Pictures production and you see the hooves hitting the ground. I just so excited. I've never felt like that for any movie, like even to date. Like Endgame, Infinity War, all of that was cool, but this was something I was invested in. I was in love with it, and it's just, I still get excited. I feel like I'm 15 again, like about to get, like I just got my learners, and it's, again, like you said, you know, it's a nostalgic factor. I was really young when I saw them, but and I will say, Army of Darkness is the only movie I've seen on TV to date of that entire series. I remember living down here, I wasn't even living down here. I was probably 17, and it was on TV, and I'm like, we gotta watch it. And of course, nobody in my family, like, they thought, my grandfather thought it was funny because it's like the end of the movie, and you have like the Sally Forth thing going on.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was so obsessed with it, and my whole family thought it was dog. But I'm like, no, dude, like, this is amazing. I'm like, what are you guys saying? But no, these movies, up to date now, I've been watching them for like 10 years, and they've just by far been my favorite horror movies. Absolutely, just down to the directing style, Bruce Campbell himself, and just everything that goes into it is why I love it, and I think it's as amazing as it is.
Yeah, one thing on you saying that Army of Darkness is the only one you've seen on TV, I think I might know why that is.
I guarantee I know. Like, it probably makes a lot of sense.
I'm not saying this as a fact. I'm not sure, but I'm looking at the poster right now, and I'm pretty sure it's the only one that got an MSRP rating. It got an R rating.
Yeah.
Whereas the Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 were NC-17. They were basically just unrated.
Well, because I mean, with Evil Dead 2, they made a parent company to rate the movie so it wouldn't get an X rating.
Yeah,
well, they showed in theaters.
Yeah, well, it was Rosebud Distribution Company. Dino De
Yeah.
Laurentiis made like a shell company ran by
Yeah,
his
he did.
son-in-law.
That's what it is, shell company.
And it was literally because his distribution company wasn't allowed to distribute X-rated films, but they didn't want to edit it down into an R-rated movie, so they were like, "We'll just make our own distribution company so we can put it out unrated and not have to worry about like contracts or anything like that."
Yeah.
But
I love that. I love seeing Rosebud come up, and I'm just like, yeah. I'm like, this was a great loophole. It's always great. You're like, man, boys, like, where would we be at if like this company had not been made or existed?
yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I guess it looks like, because I didn't get a lot of info on the distribution of Army of Darkness, but it looks like there's a Universal logo on it, so I'm guessing they went like for a bigger distribution for Army of Darkness, and so that's why it's got an R rating, and that's
absolutely, yeah,
that's probably why it was able to be shown on TV. They also said that there's like 4 edits of the movie out there, because there's the original,
there's the European,
there's the
US,
European, the director's cut, and then the TV edit.
Yeah, no, there's like 4 different versions of the movie. I was listening to something about that a couple days ago, and I don't realize that because I know there's like 2 main endings, which I know you want to touch on, like the original one that Sam Raimi wanted, because they go into that with the TV series.
Yeah.
And then there's the one that we got, really.
Which
is...
I love. Lady, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
He's holding the gun.
Yeah. Sam, I hear you laughing, but you still trash talk this movie.
It's still garbage. Sorry.
It's still garbage.
Whoa. Are you really going to go that far and say it's garbage?
No, I was joking.
No, he was just saying that for reaction purposes.
Okay. All right. He got a reaction out of me, so I actually got offended there for a minute.
I know. Like, dude.
You're like attacking me personally on this one.
I mean, you are wearing the shirt, so I had to.
Yes, this is true.
So is that from the game, right? That's from the game cover. Or no, it's Evil Dead 2?
Yeah, this is Evil Dead 2. This is there's I'll send you the website. It's called Cavity Colors. They actually have a new line of Evil Dead 2 stuff on there right now. But they also have a bunch of Godzilla stuff.
I'm getting on there right now.
They have American Werewolf in London. They have all kinds of stuff that I know you're into, and it's what the hell is going on outside? I got my window open. It sounds like Modern Warfare outside.
Well, listen, is it Modern Warfare if you're not getting bullied right now? Like, is it really?
I guess it's Memorial.
Oh, they got Tremors.
No, it's Memorial Day weekend next weekend. I don't know what the it sounds like someone's lighting off fireworks.
Dude, I want the Jonesy the cat shirt. That's it.
But there's a guy named Devin's Art on there. I think that's his name. I think it's Devin Art. And he does like a bunch of the graphic stuff for their clothes. So they've all got like a similar style to them. And this, I'm
already looking at them.
I got this shirt like a couple years ago from them. It's one of my favorite shirt makers. I got a pair of the Evil Dead 2 sweatpants. It's like my favorite pair of sweatpants.
I'm sorry. I need to see if it's up in my old room. I have something for you.
Yeah, I can. I also got. I got Sam. I got my Necronomicon pillow,
That's awesome.
and I got my blanket.
That's from the original design, right? The first movie.
I think it's either the. See, I'm not sure because it looks more like the Army of Darkness one, but I also have. I got to turn my light on here. I think you've seen it, but I got my Evil Dead blanket on my chair. And then, like I said, I got the Army of Darkness poster, but then I've also got the mouse pad. So I'm all about this.
Yeah.
I you not, I was counting it. I got like 6 Evil Dead shirts, including one of the remake, and then I have my denim vest. I stitched a Evil Dead patch on the back of it. Yeah. So, I don't around with this. I hope he's coming. I hope you have like a inflatable blow up doll of Bruce Campbell.
Of Ash.
Yeah.
No, it was a I don't wear scars, but they were running a sale, and it had the Necronomicon on one end, and then the skull side profile from Evil Dead 2, and then it had Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn around like the neck, like where you would hang it over your neck, and it was just a really cool scarf I bought myself.
Oh, you couldn't find it?
No, I've moved like 4 times since I bought it. It's probably in my car somewhere.
Nice.
Devin's hitting the Dutch angle right now.
I'm trying to look at what the hell is hanging up behind you.
Oh, you want me to do that real quick?
What is that? Is that
that's from My Hero Academia.
This is Toga from My Hero. I had it custom printed when I was living in Fairmont. These are 2 of my Spider-Man comics. One of them fell down, and then I've got my hats and my cardboard that's on the inside, like the designs from my Elite Trainer boxes of Pokemon cards.
Pokemon.
Anyway. Yeah, I've got like... They're all stacked up right here. I've spent too much money on them for how old I am.
What is that?
They're just filled with Pokemon cards. They're the Elite Trainer boxes. We're not here to talk about these, Devin. I could talk about all the hollows and I have.
We'll do an episode where we just talk about Pokemon movies.
Is Ash actually dead throughout the entire series?
Dead by Dawn?
Oh, in Pokemon?
The first lightning bolt actually kills him.
So there's those 2 theories that he's actually in a coma, and he's imagining this, or he's always 10 years old because Ho-Oh grants a wish, and he wished that he was always like on that journey. I think those are like the 2 most popular theories.
I've never been a Pokemon man. I watched some of the movies.
You know, Sam, I think we could do this without Devin. I'm gonna be real now, man.
Yeah, Devin, you'll just be here to stream it, and then we'll just
you just
we'll
gotta
talk.
set it up, and then you gotta f*** off.
All right.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, I gotta take a short break. I'm gonna get some food. I'll be right back. Like
what
5-10 minutes.
5-10 minutes. Oh my god! Oh, pizza.
That's well, what do you want to talk about then, Devin? Like, what about Evil Dead?
Okay, so this is one thing I do want to talk about. It is something to this day I wish had happened. Kinda did, but not in the format I wanted it to. But they were supposed to do a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason.
Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash.
Yeah, and
yeah,
I want that so badly, and then I found out that they made it into
the comics.
Into a comic, and I downloaded them to read. I never got around to reading them though.
Let me see if I can find it for you. I've got only a few hundred I'd have to go through, but
oh, you have it?
I have 2. I don't know where one's at because I bought it from Books A Million. But I have a comic that's like Ash versus Evil Dead, or the Army of Darkness.
Well, he also apparently he was part of Marvel Comics. So he showed up. He met like Spider-Man and the Punisher hooked him up with some weapons at one point,
The
and
Punisher one makes sense.
he was like he was in a run of Marvel Zombies. I think that's where all that happened. Was he showed up in the Marvel
Yeah,
Zombies?
he was. He was in Marvel Zombies. You're exactly right. I had one comic and it had him like he was carrying around Frankenstein's head. I want to say it's been like 6 years since I bought it and lost it. It's somewhere in my old house. But
man, you gotta treat these things like relics. This is Ash
well,
we're talking about.
at the time I didn't have like a box and
Okay.
anything, and I had it in like my headboard because I had like a little storage space. Then I threw out that headboard. God, I don't know, dude. And I had an old box of like, there was a flea market around where I used to live. Used to go in there and buy comics all the time. Found a bunch of old ones of those I'd bought as a kid.
Oh, also
You keep talking while I'm looking.
While Sam's not here, I did want to mention this because it's a big spoiler for.
Oh yeah, let's talk about spoilers.
The remake of Evil Dead, but they straight up I love it so much. They pulled the line from Evil Dead 2. They changed it up a little bit. But the line in Evil Dead 2 is when he cuts off the one thing's head and it's on the floor and it's like, I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul. And then he's like, swallow this. And then he shoots it. They did it in the Evil Dead remake, but instead it's like, I will feast on your soul. And then she shoves the chainsaw in its mouth and is like, feast on this, mother.
Feast on this. Oh, that was like one of my... There was a scene I wanted to bring up from the remake, but I didn't want to say it. Yeah, while Sam was here.
Oh, there he is. He just came back.
It's one of them that makes me... Sam, deafen yourself for like 2 seconds. I'm about to talk about something.
He's about to spoil the remake a little bit.
We good? Is he? I can't. Oh, I have too many things opened up. I apologize.
Can you hear us? No, he can't hear us.
So it's when she's like crawling through the shed and the machete is like stabbing through and it hits her knee and you just know it's rusty and like you need a tetanus shot after this.
Yeah.
And it just that's the scene that makes me cringe so hard to this day. And I found it. It's issue 2 of Army of Darkness. My light's gonna create a lot of glare, but
that's sick.
I've not been able to find them like anymore since. I've tried to get on eBay, can't really find any of them.
That might be worth something.
I will never sell it.
You should get it framed.
That's the plan. I have it in a box right now so it doesn't bow. It's packed in there like tight so it doesn't have any leaning room. But it was hanging up on my wall.
But going back to the remake too, while can't hear us, Jane Levy's character in the remake, she is kind of like a pseudo version of Ash to a degree because she gets she turns into a deadite and then she recovers from it. She loses her hand in a really badass way where she does it herself. And then
well, I mean, Ash does it himself, but
she does it.
He didn't have to pull it out from a Jeep.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess she didn't really have too much of a choice, but he didn't either. He was going to turn into a deadite if he didn't, or it was his hand was gonna kill him. So they were kind of technically in a similar situation with.
They are. I just think hers was way worse. Because you literally see like the skin and the tendons ripping.
Oh no, it's horrible. And then she gets.
It's harder to watch that.
And then she f***s up a deadite with a chainsaw and says like an awesome badass one-liner. So it's like
I will say the abomination went down kind of easy.
Yeah, it did, but it was an awesome scene.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I do like the whole fact that she kind of was like a pseudo Ash.
She was the fill-in, like her name, like she wasn't a recreation of the character, but you could tell what character in comparison to the original who she was filling.
Yeah, definitely.
Scott was the nerdy guy. Her brother was just a new character, and then you had what was her? I can't remember her name in the movie. I thought I made notes about
the
who
nurse,
they were, but I could be. No, actually, Jane Levy's character. I can't think of her name right now.
Yeah, I can't remember any of their names.
Teen cast.
Their names don't matter in the movie, all right?
Mia.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
I knew it was something like easy. I just couldn't remember what it was actually. Anyway.
All right, I'm gonna give Sam the thumbs up. You're good to.
Hey Sam, deafen yourself again real quick. No.
Some good
I hope
pizza.
that pizza's good, buddy.
Hey, I'm just sitting here enjoying my pizza, right?
No, I get it. I got like 100% cocoa chocolate right here, and I'm vibing with it.
All right, so we'll get on to the second movie now. What do I got here? Oh, I'm on my fun facts. I gotta go back to my.
Yeah, you're gonna have to carry me for this one.
So we already talked about the fact that it starts out with basically a reimagining, retelling. And like I said, this has led to a debate about whether this is a remake or a sequel, but they basically
Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell say that it's a sequel.
It solidifies a sequel, and I agree it's a sequel. It just there's technical
especially
reasons,
with the show being out.
Yeah,
it's a sequel.
Oh yeah, I like that this time around though, because I think it adds to it's part of the comedy, but Ash is able to straight up lose the evil force that's chasing him.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of hides from it, and of all places, he hides in the cellar.
Well, I think it's because it's like I pulled a sneaky on you. He wouldn't expect it to go.
Right.
I think it's the second one. There's like it's really nice, and it's when I can tell you exactly. That's like the point in time where I started looking for continuous shots in movies, and it's when the evil's chasing him throughout the house. I don't remember if that's the first one or the second one, but there's a long shot of the evil chasing him, and that's when I fell in love with those. Just like no cuts, no edits, anything kind of shots.
I think the one where he's chasing him through the house is the second one.
Okay.
When you see the force going through the house in the first one, it's mainly just that final shot when it blows through the doors and then it takes him out in the front.
I lied to Sam then. Johnny Depp is watching Evil Dead 2 in Nightmare on Elm Street, right? No, he had to be watching 1 because then they had the glove in the second one. I swear it's that scene in the first Evil Elm Street.
I can't remember what he's watching. I didn't even realize he was watching Evil Dead.
Well, that's because that's what I was talking about. Where they're doing that back and forth, is that they added in Johnny Depp was watching Evil Dead.
Right.
In that movie.
I just didn't. I'll have to go back and rewatch that. Okay. Also, another thing I have in my notes is it definitely seems like the Ash in the mirror, the one that he's talking to, and he's like, "We hacked up our girlfriend." I'd say that's not all right. I feel like that was like the seed or like the beginning of the character of Evil Ash that we've seen now.
No,
I think like 3 times. Because
they made his features sharper in that scene for the like mirrored version of him, so it literally shows that it's like it's a different version of like it's his devil, like the devil and the angel almost kind of like thing. But they made his features a lot sharper in that scene.
Yeah, because then we see that character again in Army of Darkness, and then he shows up again in the show.
He does. Bum shoulder.
So, you mentioned mirrors, right? The first movie, they have one throwaway scene where he basically reaches through the mirror like it's liquid.
Yeah.
And I thought they were going to come back to that, and nothing really came of it.
Well, that was
I'm going to be honest, I can't remember that scene.
That was just the Force kind of messing with his head. Because, I mean, it's definitely... They wanted it to be like, by the end of the movie, this man is, like, lost his sanity, and he's broken. And that's where he's just... Now he's just going to fight back and try to get the hell out of there. So that was kind of just messing with him.
Yeah,
and then,
I remember it now.
And then yeah, they kind of they remix that scene to a degree with, instead of it being him reaching his hand through, instead his reflection comes out of the mirror and starts talking to him.
That was totally shot like they just had like they'd taken the rim of the mirror, right? Like I'm guessing, I'm not stating, but they'd taken like the outline of that mirror, put it on the ground, and just filled it with water or something, and they had to have done it like that, right?
Probably something like that.
Mhm.
I love because there's that scene, and then there's the scene where he sits down on the chair and it breaks out from under him, and then everything just starts laughing in the whole house.
Yeah, it is.
And I love when he like, hey, because at this point he's kind of broken already, and he's like, he sees the lamp, and he just starts going up and down with the lamp. I love that, and then they both just start laughing together.
I do. It's probably my favorite scene from the second movie is when everything just starts breaking, and you're like, okay, like he's crazier. This is happening.
And I like that the girl who played Bobby Joe, I guess she was like so into the making of the movie, she wanted to do anything she could. So when everything's laughing in the house, if you look, the couch is laughing, but it's just the cushions going up and down. I guess the actress who played Bobby Joe just got into the couch and started doing that.
That's cool.
Now my favorite.
See, I learn more every time I'm on this.
My favorite scene from that movie, I'm sure it's a lot of people's. It's kind of split. It's either the scene where he cuts his hand off, and he's like, "Who's laughing now?" and then his face just gets covered in blood. But I think my favorite scene in the movie is the montage where he builds the hand axe, and then he's standing there like an action hero, and he's got that hook on his chest, so he just revs up the chainsaw and cuts off the barrel of the shotgun and then flips it, and he's just like, groovy. That is, I get goosebumps every time I see that.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
That is definitely my favorite. Now, Sam, I gotta ask, what did you think of this one compared to the first one?
So I thought the effects they went kind of the same way with the effects, right? But I think they were more comical with it. Weren't trying to be as serious.
For sure.
So I think it was better. But
yeah, they were because
No,
I'll let you go, Beck.
No, I can't. I always get the word like kind of mixed up. Sam Raimi has like they've coined a term for him. Is it slash stick comedy?
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean that's exactly because I know in the first movie they wanted to have kind of a comedic subplot that got cut, and so they went all in really for the second one, and then it really got to shine, and that's kind of why I love this trilogy as a whole, because you get different mediums. You get just the pure horror, you get the mixture, and then Army of Darkness is just a comedy movie almost. I guess like if you're desensitized to horror movies, then it's just pure comedy because it's really not scary unless you've never seen anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they really did, and I think that there was in the second one they tried to have like a little subplot to where these guys who like broke out of prison, or these robbers that came and broke into the cabin and were looking for treasure on top of everything going on, but that got cut too. But you know, I agree. Like, you're right. They really did it. It did a complete change on the behavior of what the movie was, but that's what they wanted.
Well, I guess Sam Raimi initially didn't even want to do a second one. Like, he had no plans to ever do a second one, and then after how rough the making of Crime Wave was, they were like, well, maybe we can do another Evil Dead, and it'll be like, now we have a little more knowledge of how to do this. We can get a bigger budget. And then I guess one of the producers had made a film called Attack of the Helping Hand. And it was basically a short film where the hamburger helper attacks a woman. And they were like, this is basically what we want to do with the Evil Dead. And so that's how you get all the shit with the hand coming to life and attacking him, was basically just Sam Raimi saw Attack of the Helping Hand and was like, I want to put this in the Evil Dead. This is the Evil Dead 2 right here.
Oh, dude, that scene is amazing though, where Ash's hand is turned and it's him acting against himself, like as two separate beings. And it really, like, for a man who probably, other than like theater in high school and anything else, whatever he did, I don't know, hadn't done a lot of acting before that. I think he executed it really well. He
is. I mean, it is crazy. I didn't realize it until on this rewatch, especially, that he is really good with slapstick. Like,
yeah, he is.
Like that is like top tier slapstick right there when he's smashing the plates on his head, and he's just like got himself by the back of the head. And I guess
like noticing that scene being sped up is really funny too. Like, you're obviously, this is not like a natural movement. It's sped up like ever so slightly, but it adds to it.
Well, and I guess everybody who was watching him do that scene on set was like concerned because he had like a stunt double, and really the only thing the stunt double did was throw himself down the stairs. Other than that, everything was Bruce. And they were like watching him do that scene in the kitchen where he's like fighting his hand, and they were like, this dude's about to knock himself out. Like, this is gonna go really badly.
But to be fair, in comparison, being knocked out to being like probably the worst thing that happened to him in the second movie, as just like the living conditions in the first one, like, that's not bad.
Oh, that
if you get knocked out, you're fine. But like the other one, you were like actually fighting for your life.
Oh, that wasn't the worst thing that would have happened to him, because he got his teeth knocked loose.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, when they were filming the scene where the one dude punches him after he like shoots through the door and he comes through.
Yeah,
the dude who hits him actually connected the hit and knocked his teeth loose.
That scene always looked really good.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you ask, I want to ask him this in person if we get to meet him. If it was, I feel like he would say it's worth it now, looking back on it.
Well, I mean, because
that hit.
That's the shot they used, and they said, yeah, it looks great. So
okay, so like, if we're talking about, I'm sorry, this is so far off, but I want to bring up injuries that have been used on set. Do you know about like the whole like infamous Gibby falling from the ceiling scene in iCarly?
No. Wow.
Okay, there was a meme
We're gonna talk
around
about iCarly and the evil.
I'm sorry. I gotta bring it up because it is actually so visceral. There's a scene where they yell from Gibby. He falls from the ceiling. What happened was a stunt double actually fell from like 3 stories, shattered all like his ribs, and had to be gurneyed off scene. And they use it in the clip. That's all I was. Like, you go watch it. That was a stunt double. He stopped working after that, whether it was like in conjunction with the injury or just whatever. But no, he had to be carried off set. He went to like the ER.
He gets nervous every time he's on a set now. Also, the scene where, because he's beating the shit out of himself and then he cuts off his hand. I love that when he puts the hand under a bucket, he puts books on it. And one of the books is Farewell to Arms.
I'm gonna bring that up to you. I'm sure I've noticed it in the past, but this was the first time I registered it, and I got a good belly laugh out of that. Like, that was just a Farewell to Arms. Oh shit. So I wanna get into it like immediately with Sam. Mm-hmm. The fight with Henrietta. What did you like? Was that? Did you like? Because hold on. Words elude me. Did you like that scene? Because I think it's like one of the biggest points in the movie. Because I mean, just the way that they designed her, and obviously you can see where it's kind of like layered in over each other, the 2 fight scenes. But it's one of the best scenes in the movie to me. And Henrietta has become such an iconic, I think, Deadite because of that.
Henrietta is the old lady, right?
Yeah, she was the one that whenever they locked him in the cellar, she was like, "I'll swallow your soul."
Yeah, I thought the fight scene was pretty good for like the effects that they had. Mm-hmm. Her character design when she finally transformed, that was wild.
She starts like making those monkey noises.
Yeah.
Straight up monkey noises.
Can we I'm gonna touch on it later since you haven't seen the show, but there is a scene with Henrietta in the TV show, and one I will say, her as a Deadite, they kept the makeup to a T of what it used to look like.
Oh yeah,
I'm
Really?
so happy with that. But there's a disgusting scene with her as the Deadite in the basement. It's phenomenal.
So do you know who that is under that costume? I'm sure you do.
I read it. I can't remember.
It's Ted Raimi.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
That's part of that thing where Sam Raimi loved torturing his brother so much that he made him wear that big ass suit. Like, cause I
Weird
watched
Al in the fat video.
I watched the documentary that was on the Blu-ray, and they showed like him taking on, like, he loved being a part of the movie.
Yeah.
It was so hot because they filmed it in high school.
A gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the makeup department, the producers, everybody had like their own classrooms that they had as their department room. Which, fun fact, I guess the makeup department, there would be times that Sam and like one of the producers would be like, well, we need to get this shot. They just go in and take something from the makeup crew, special effects crew, to use, and sometimes it wouldn't be finished, and so the makeup guys booby-trapped their room so that they couldn't keep going in there. So I guess at some point Sam Raimi went in there to grab something and a water balloon hit him, got him soaked.
Oh, like that's the worst thing that happened to them on
Right.
a hot days. Like, I'm wet.
But
Oh,
yeah, so Ted Raimi's taken off this suit and they're literally just like, there's just buckets of sweat. Like, it's gross how much, like, the floor is just covered in sweat as he's taking off these fake feet and stuff. And I guess at some point during the filming of the movie, something happened and the whole costume ripped. And so in that final scene when she's like flying and she's attacking Annie's head, like right before he's like, let's go. If you look close enough, you can see the whole back of the costume is just ripped open. You can just see it is open because it was basically by the end of the movie, it was like falling apart because they had just put that costume through so much, and Ted Raimi's in there dying, but also having a great time because he also had those contacts in that you can't see through. So
did they not perfect that with the $3.6 million budget in the second one?
No,
they really went, you still got to be blind, my guy.
Yeah, they still did that. So
that, I think that funny bringing that up to where, you know, you're talking about like the fat suit pretty much. He's drenched, and now you have like the new Spider-Man suit to where they have coolant systems running throughout it. You know, back in my day, my brother just had to go through like 5 heat strokes. That was acting,
and
that
it was
really acting at that point.
And it was funny to me. I thought it was
hilarious.
hilarious.
I was not worried about his well-being. I was worried about the shot.
No, yeah, they said that too. They'd be like some of the crew members would be concerned about Ted, like, "Hey, Ted, are you all right?" This and that, and Sam would just be like, "He's fine. He's fine. We got to get this shot. Come on." Like,
He's fine.
He's got this.
God.
And dude, you know that made Ted the man who he is. The man he is today. Like he goes on every set acting. He's like, you know, back. He's like, when I was filming Evil Dead 2. But like, I bet that was a drastic change from him standing on the side of the road in the first one waving to dying almost in the suit.
Oh, yeah, okay, so here it is. I knew I had it somewhere in my notes. So, yeah, Jake slipped when he went to hit Ash in the face, knocked his front teeth loose. Ted Raimi broke the guy who plays Jake's nose.
Really?
While he was in the costume for Henrietta. I guess he, like, attacked him or something. He couldn't see very well. He ended up hitting him.
Because of the contact?
And broke his nose.
Dude, we didn't know Ted Raimi actually used to be like a semi-professional MMA fighter. He was putting everybody in headlocks in the Henrietta costume. He's like, I'm gonna tap out your soul.
Also, so yeah, they had the guy from the Elm Street series, Mark something, I can't remember his last name. He was one of the makeup guys. Another one of the lead makeup guys was Greg Nicotero, the guy who does like all the shit for The Walking Dead.
Okay.
And he's also done a bunch of other stuff. He did like Creepshow 2. He's just done so much stuff. He must be like one of the highest paid makeup guys out there, I feel like.
So I'm trying to think of like stuff for Evil Dead 2.
Oh, also, apparently Sam Raimi fired a large portion of the film crew near the beginning of filming the second one because a lot of them were questioning his techniques with like cameras and stuff and lighting, and they were like, "Are you sure you want to do this or that?" And like at a certain point, Sam Raimi just got fed up and was like, "If you don't like the way I'm doing it, there's the door. I don't have time for this." And so he changed out like a large portion of the crew pretty early on into filming.
If you don't want to make $2.25 an hour, you can just leave and find a better job.
Well, and then the people who were left were basically just like super on board.
So we got the best team that we could because it went through the weeding process of it
basically.
So like, I'm just sad that you didn't like the movies. I keep circling around to that, but I thought we were gonna be friends. That's all I'm saying.
Also, you know
sorry to disappoint you.
That shot. I mean, it's all practical, but I didn't realize when they shot that scene of Bruce or Ash flying backwards through the woods, and he's like spinning around and everything.
Yeah.
So what it was they had a crane that they hooked him up to, so he's actually up there in the air, and then it had the system on it that rotated. So they were actually rotating his ass, driving down this long stretch of road, rotating him. And this guy that was like working the stuff under him was like, "Hey man, what did you have for breakfast today?" And Bruce would be like, why? And he'd be like, "Well, because you're probably gonna throw up, and I just want to make sure it's not gonna be like a lot on me." and so yeah, then they filmed him flying backwards, and then they sped it up. And I just thought that was insane because that's definitely gonna make you lose your lunch real quick. I don't know.
That's why you eat peanut butter.
I don't know if he actually did throw up or not. They never really mentioned that in the thing I watched, but I just thought that was so interesting.
Bruce Campbell doesn't throw up.
Well, that's all I really had on Evil Dead 2. I guess let me look at my fun facts here. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything. No, yeah, we touched on all that stuff. Yeah, so I guess that's all I really have on Evil Dead 2. I mean, I think if I was going to rank the movies, I put them in reverse orders. I think Army of Darkness is the best. Evil Dead 2 is second best. And then
Evil Dead was the best. Or worst.
Not the worst, just the lowest.
Ooh.
No, his least favorite, okay? His least favorite.
So,
but no,
I
I'd
like
agree
what
with
this
that.
person said in chat. I would like to talk about like the evil actually taking a physical form in Evil Dead 2 real quick.
Oh,
like
that's
just like
true,
as a short little like segment. Man, this person in chat is like, I'm sure he's a real cool guy.
I was gonna say, isn't that you?
Yeah, it absolutely is me. Yeah, we have actually 2 viewers. One of them is me.
Oh my god.
But no, like the evil, we actually get to see like a physical manifestation of it in the second one, and it uses the tree. It uses the trees as arms. I think that's very weird. I guess really, I just want to know how they came up with the design for it more than anything.
It looks like a pumpkin.
Yeah, it looked.
It did. It really did. It kind of
pumpkin,
reminded me of like Pumpkinhead, even like. On top of being a pumpkin, it reminded me of Pumpkinhead. I think it was the eyes.
Right.
But yeah, that is literally all I had to say. My order of the movies would go Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I would agree with Devin. I'd do Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 1.
I love that Evil Dead 1 is like truly a horror film.
Yeah.
I love the comedy of Evil Dead or Army of Darkness. And I'm like a simp for like medieval stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like the mixture of horror and comedy with Evil Dead 2. Not that either of them are bad. It's just I like both ends of the spectrum. Like I like that it's either a horror movie or a comedy, and you don't have that mixture. The mixture is amazing, and they pull it off really well. It's just a matter of I kind of like having them separated in this scenario. I like them being their own version and not a mixture. Not to ramble on, but I did.
Well, and funny enough, if we added the Evil Dead remake into the mix, I think I'd put the remake above the original.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. Like, as a standalone horror movie, Evil Dead remake is better, and then it would go Evil Dead 1, Army of Darkness, and 2 for me.
See, I think part of my problem is I have a nostalgia bias too, because like I said, Army of Darkness was the first one I watched, and I have a connection to my uncle with it, so it might be partially that, but then also the one-liners are amazing.
Yeah, you really did. Actually, I have something written down that I have it specified as like a Silent Bob-esque delivery from Army of Darkness, to where, you do have a bunch of those one-liners, and then Ash says something, and I'm just like, that's pretty prolific for what kind of movie it was. But what was I gonna say? While I do rank Evil Dead 2 as the last one, I think it's one of the few scenarios to where the sequel exceeds the original. Like, I know there's a whole argument around that, but I really do think it's one of the few times that it is better than the original.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think a lot of people, I feel like that's like a pretty common thing. Yeah, most people think that the sequel it's one of the rare times where the sequel is better than the original.
And it probably does help that compared to like 80,000, they had about a little over $3.5 million of a budget for the second one.
Well,
sorry, real quick before I forget, Sam. Mm-hmm. While we were talking about how it was filmed in a gymnasium and it was like really hot during summer, I remember them pinpointing the scene where he shoots the hand in the wall and the blood comes spurting out. They were like, that was one of the worst scenes to shoot because it was like summertime, and they were like, the amount of bugs that were coming into the gymnasium and it was like just so hot and sticky from that scene. They were like, it was just horrible to shoot.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds horrible. Yeah.
But again, it adds to it because it's like, wow, they really suffered through all this shit, and it's just, man, you gotta love it. Anyway, sorry, I wanted to bring that up before we get into Army of Darkness.
Sam, you got any final thoughts on Evil Dead 2? Anything that you didn't like? You thought was interesting?
No. I'm ready for Army of Darkness. I'm ready.
So is Army of Darkness your favorite then? Right? Because you said you agree with Devin. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing you like the comedic factor of it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also had several nitpicks, but...
No, it's part of the comedy. Nitpicks then?
I think we should go through the movie,
Okay.
We'll get there when we get there.
Well, we're there. We're on Army of Darkness.
We're there, man, yeah.
We are here.
Tear the movie apart, and we're going to tell you why you're wrong.
We just fell out of the sky and landed in Army of Darkness. That reminds me, though, real quick.
Fell out of the sky.
You were talking about when you first encountered the movies and how the opening of Army of Darkness makes you happy every time you see it. You get super excited.
Absolutely.
When I first watched Evil Dead 2 when I was in high school for the first time, and I don't know how long. Like I said, I don't really remember the first time I watched them, but when I watched that second one again and it ended with him dropping into the medieval times, I got so damn excited. I was like, oh my god, this is how he got, okay, I'm hyped now. And then I rewatched Army of Darkness because why not? But yeah, so that just made me super, super happy to see that at the end of Evil Dead 2.
So, was it what was his name? Something the Red?
Henry the Red.
Henry. So going into let's do a direct transition from our Evil Dead 2 to Army of Darkness in the sense of we see Ash fall out of the sky, he shoots the Deadite, head explodes, they all start huzzah! Like a man of quality. And then we get to Army of Darkness 3, he's like, my name's Ash. And from what I can tell, it's 1400 AD and I'm a slave. They go from the second one to where they're literally just oh, dude, it's our savior. No doubt. To where they're like, well, he's one of Henry. He's got a belt, he's a chainsaw, a gun. And they're like, nah, ain't about this. they go from cheering him on to we're gonna execute him in the most like cruel way possible.
Well, they kind of like they rehash and change it up a bit, the beginning moments of him showing up there, because he doesn't seem to fight the Deadite when he first shows up in the Army of Darkness, the actual movie. Instead, he drops out of the sky and they like start attacking his car with swords because they don't know what the hell it is. And
I love that scene, like, poking it and just like, what is this contraption? Also, I will mention that between Evil Dead 1 and Army of Darkness, there's an 11-year gap. The first movie released in like 81, and this one came out in 92. Like, I'll give them that it was over a decade between filming. You can even see that just like in the film grain between the first, like even the second one and the last one, where it came out 80s to 90s, and Universal obviously having a huge input on that, where like they really had a budget and they had a real like production company behind them and everything.
Well, and that's also it also adds to the whole, because there's a big issue with like a lot of people get confused by the continuity of the movies because of stuff like where one thing happens in one movie and then it's different in the next. And I mean it makes sense why it would be confusing, but I also feel like it adds to the charm of like it's different from how from how most movies approach their continuity. And most of them it's just direct to it, whereas these ones kind of each movie can stand on its own. You don't have to have seen the other ones because they present it in a way where they give you all the background information you need to pick up where the movie starts.
And that was like a direct thing that they brought up in the third one, is they wanted it to be, people didn't have to see the other ones to view this movie.
Right.
And that was why they gave it a recap. But also I come back to watch the show. The show polishes the movies in the sense of once you watch them, you understand what parts of which movie are canon and what aren't.
Yeah, that was one thing I was wondering before I started watching the first episode, was I couldn't remember how they approached the canon of the story. And then when I saw they referenced and used footage from the first movie, I was like, okay, so I think they acknowledge all three of the movies in this one. They do.
I remember, I think originally, like in season 2, they almost didn't touch on Army of Darkness at all. Army of Darkness was almost left out of the show entirely. I don't know for what reason, but then they finally go around to it, and it's a whole thing. But yeah, they really do go back, and they're like, cause like, yeah, Cheryl gets brought in, and then they use film from like, I think the second movie in one of the episodes, to where it's like just him and Linda, but then they mention the friends, and it's all confusing. But again, like what you're saying, you're like, it does add to the charm, because I love that this movie, like, they know it's not perfect, like in timeline reasons, and they know that they have issues, but they fix them and they acknowledge them, and they don't try to just avoid them and like, push them under the rug, sweep them under the rug. But yeah, I want to know what your nitpicks are with Army of Darkness, because I want to touch on those.
So I'll start with probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's just the pit.
The pit.
Well, you don't like the
Okay.
pit?
No, I like the pit. That's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Oh, really?
It's so funny.
It's like, what does he say? He's like, strange
all
one.
of them are just like, the pit.
The pit. That's really what a metal concert is. It's just the pit.
Well, and
Yep.
I like how the one girl just throws a rock that's not even like that large, but it hits him and completely throws his ass almost completely into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there really is like a good 2 minutes to where he's standing on top of the pit, just like, whoa, and nothing. Like, they don't. He's just
and
like,
then,
I think he's got really bad like equilibrium.
And then they do something, and he does this like crazy ass flip into the pit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So okay, we'll get the nitpicks now. So with the pit, right? When you first show you looking down, you can't see anything down there. I guess it's for like this mystery. Like it's like a decision that they made. But then later, when he's actually in the pit, it's plenty bright down there, and everyone's looking at him, and they cheering on the monster.
Like,
But like I said, it's a filmmaking decision. It's keeps the mystery, right?
no, I agree. I have nitpicks about this movie, but it doesn't make me hate them any less. Like, I come back around to like just the issue of gasoline in this movie with everything that's used. I'm like, how did you still
That
have
was
this?
that was one of my nitpicks. Yeah.
How-
Okay,
I was like,
how does
car running.
how does he keep reloading his f***ing shotgun? How many
Yeah.
shells
No,
does he
so
have in that
actually-
shirt pocket of
so-
his?
Hold on. I have something I brought up, and I've got to say it because, again, it's not even a nitpick. It's something I adore about the movie that they took the time to add in the details, and it's the original fight with who I have dubbed the she bitch,
That's a pit bitch.
and it's because, huh?
Are you talking about? Oh no, you're talking about the
The she bitch. He's like, hey, she bitch.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
Yeah. You can hear reloads in between scenes where they're cut from Ash after he fires. I love that they did that. Like, you'll see her get hit with the shell and she's like twirling around, but you can still hear the barrel breaking and him reloading.
Yeah.
I love that they did that. But that was like that was one of my biggest points is because so funny enough, one of my dad's old fraternity brothers, he was in an episode of like The Men Who Built America, and he played one of the Pinkertons, and he's like a huge gun nut. And one of his biggest issues was, he was like, well, why don't you ever show us reloading? And he's like, well, people know that there's enough time in between shots that they had enough time to reload. And he's like, that's not true. So he's like, and he got so adamant about that. He's like, you need to have them like either like reloading or sounds. And going back and watching that movie whenever I had that conversation with him when I was a kid, hearing that, I'm like, I love that they added the sounds into it because it wasn't just like, well, obviously he had enough time to reload the double barrel. Even when we see him do it, we see how quickly he does it, but they still add in those sounds so we know that he's reloading and not just firing multiple times when we know that he has a side-by-side barrel shotgun.
Yeah, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter when he's stuck in medieval times. It doesn't have access to
That aside, they took the time to show that he's reloading, Devin.
And he's got shells in his trunk. Which when did he put shells in
Yeah.
his trunk? Because he didn't.
No idea.
In between when he was flying through the vortex, he
He
grabbed
just-
a box of
Uh-huh.
shells, room into the trunk, and you could hear all the sounds. You heard
Yeah,
the
you
shells
can hear all the
jangling,
sounds.
the
Yeah.
trunk
The trunk
slam.
slam. Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, no. See, Sam knows what I'm talking about. It was in the deleted scenes.
You didn't see this?
Okay,
Yeah, man.
going back to the
They literally made gunpowder.
going back to the
Let's-
vortex though.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Sorry, just real quick. Going back to the vortex though at the beginning, I'm trying to understand why. Is we know that at the beginning of Evil Dead 2, they redid the opening moments or the whole first movie because of not having the rights to the first movie.
Yeah.
Why did they go ahead and redo it at the beginning of Army of Darkness? Like they put him in a different room when he cut off his hand again.
No, so it was because Universal wanted people to not have to see the other movies and to see this one.
Right, but they could have used the footage from the second one at that point. I feel like.
Yeah, but like that's the reason that they did like the recap and
'Cause
everything.
they
I don't know
did-
why they went ahead and reshot it. It might have just been Universal wanting to find like a hotter actress or something.
Oh no, you know what it probably
But-
was? It was probably the amount of blood.
Oh, I didn't because the Army of Darkness is R-rated. It's not like NC-17 or
Yeah,
X-rated.
and there was so
Yeah.
much blood when he cut off his hand. That might be it.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
No, you're probably right.
All right, now-
Again, dude, we got to get Bruce Campbell on the stream.
All right,
Like 100%.
Sam, what were you gonna say about gunpowder?
Okay, so throughout the movie, he becomes this like master blacksmith. He makes his
Yes.
prosthetic,
Mhm.
and then later in the movie, right, we see him get the science book out of his trunk. But before that, he was still, just basically performing alchemy in their eyes.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's just
Ash is Nicholas Flamel, the man who discovered the Sorcerer's Stone, who's like immortal and discovered alchemy. Ash is Nicholas Flamel. That's why he shows up in multiple timelines, never
yep.
having aged really.
But yeah, and then later they established, right, he has a chemistry book.
Yeah.
They didn't bring it up at all before that.
Well, so no, they kind of bring it up because one of my favorite quotes from the movie is, "What's her name?" It's a really basic name. It's nothing like Sheila. I think her name's Sheila.
Yeah.
She like touches the book and he goes, "Don't touch that. You wouldn't understand it. It's like
You don't understand
he's
anything
like,
about
it's
titanium or metals or alloys.
metal and alloys and stuff."
Yeah.
Like
I have it right here. Don't
that's
touch that,
Ash
please. Your
clearly
primitive
stating that
intellect
he's,
wouldn't
like-
understand alloys and composition and things with
Yeah.
molecular structures. It's just
Like, he's
okay.
clearly only in his second semester of being like a chemical engineer, and he doesn't understand it, but he's trying to assert his dominance. Like, if Idiocracy had taken place, like that movie, but the person was still just as dumb as everybody else. But yeah, no, I love that scene because they really do. He's like clearly he doesn't understand it, but like he's
Yeah.
throwing out big words to confuse them. And yet he pulls that book out in like the end of the movie, and they completely understand it, and they make gunpowder and bombs.
And
Also,
and a
why
tank
isn't
car thing?
Why isn't civilization way more
They
advanced?
repaired an
now
entire
because of that?
engine.
They
They take out the
well,
engine.
They really came up with stuff. They're like, yeah, man, like this is. Why couldn't they build engines after this? Like really?
That's
Also, he just leaves them the chemistry book.
Yeah, like he leaves them. Like I come back to like, why isn't civilization so much further ahead of where it is because of this?
Well, maybe that tied into the original ending.
They just fuck themselves over.
But yeah, you were talking about the pit. I love that scene. Like the moment when the wise man throws the chainsaw down there. And he like jumps down or he jumps up and he like connects. It's just so awesome. It gives me the feeling like when he made the thing. Like it's just, and then he's like ready to go.
I mean, they do that in the show now. Even like the first season, you see him jump across the airstream.
Yeah.
And he connects in. They try to do it in the second season, but then the Deadite grabs him by the foot and yanks him away. So you really get like blue balls from that kind of scene. But
also the pit monster that comes out after he kills that first Deadite down there. That's apparently called the pit bitch, is what they were calling it.
That's awesome.
But the guy in the suit that plays the pit bitch is the same guy who was in the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suit in
That's
Ghostbusters.
I remember nitpick.
Okay, go.
So this is back to the pit. It's when he's
back to the pit.
Back to the pit.
Elbows are being thrown. Miss May Eye's on stage. Go on.
This is when he takes off his belt and wraps it around the chain.
Yeah.
He just holds his belt and lets the chain carry him up. Instead of just grabbing the chain.
No, Indiana Jones. That's why.
Yeah.
That movie released and it was such a pivotal point. They're like, we need a new Harrison Ford. Like, we need a Walter Kia. Is who we need in this movie. Like,
maybe his hand was too slick. He couldn't hold on to metal, but he could
yeah.
wrap the belt around his hand.
You can hold on to leather when your hand is wet, but not metal. See, I thought you were going to bring up the point that it just wraps around it perfectly.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, that too. I wasn't going to mention that because I mean, like,
issue, but
everyone sees that that's wrong.
Yeah, like
right?
he ties around perfectly, creates like a slip knot. He's like, I'm not good enough at this bad boy. He's like, I'm an Eagle Scout. I know how to do this. But yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's.
And then he gets out of the pit. And then he has like he has some of the best lines of the movie. Like
he does.
when he tells the one guy, he's like, "Your shoe's untied," which he's wearing armor.
I wanted to bring
and do
that
they
up.
have shoelaces back then?
I was gonna say, if shoelaces were not invented, that's got to be the oldest. Like if they were invented, that's got to be the oldest "your shoes untied" joke in history book. And if they weren't. Do you think he was like, what the hell's a shoelace? Like, that was more the confusion. Like, why?
And then he looks down, he punches him, and he's like, who else? Who wants some?
He's like, this is a double-barrel shotgun. And Cobalt steel.
And he starts saying all these things.
This is my
know what it is.
boomstick.
Boomstick. I like the POV that we get of him holding it to where he's just clearly in the background. He's like, and this is my boomstick. He's like, shop smart, shop smart.
Me and my uncle, after he showed me that movie, he'd always be like, he changed it up a little bit. So in our household, we always said it this way, but we'd always be like, this is my boomstick. It hails from Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
I just love that whole line. That's probably always been my favorite line from that movie until recently when it became, lady, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
Lady, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store.
That and,
How about, give you some sugar, baby?
Give me some sugar, baby.
See, I don't understand how that went from her slapping him to that.
Yeah.
Once she realized she's not one of Henry the Red's men. She's like, oh, he's okay. She's like,
He's a hunk.
He's not taken. He's fine. Yeah, she's like, well, he was always hot, but like I thought he was a murderer.
Yeah.
Like
Now he just kills dead things.
Now he just saves everybody. So he's even hotter.
Yeah, I love that's another great line with the she bitch before that happens when he's like being fed grapes and stuff, and then she says something to him, and he's like first you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me, and then he blows it. He like spits out a pit, and he's like blow. That line.
I have another like thing I wanted to bring up is that in the fight with the she bitch after he's like eating. Before Ash is fighting her, there's like no score to the movie, and it's just the sounds of her beating up everybody, and I love it. But also, like the main night guy who arrests him, like goes to touch her, he's like, it's a trick. She's clearly still alive, like, get the axe. Like, okay, we acknowledge that it's a trick, but we have enough time to go get the axe and hack her up before she moves. Like, did you not think she was gonna jump whenever you're like, we'll go get the axe?
Yeah.
But and then she delivers the line. She's like, "How about some porridge?" Before she throws like scalding water to a man's face.
That was hilarious.
She's like, "How about some porridge?"
And her eyes are all white. And you want to take a guess? Same ass contacts.
Are you serious? 11 years later?
Same ass contacts.
God, this movie.
You want to talk about? I love the scene where it's basically Gulliver Travels meets Army of Darkness.
Oh,
Ash is
I
just
remember that.
fighting tons of mini versions of himself. Like he even gets trapped down. They basically impregnate him. But
Yeah.
Well, and
I don't know.
if you look closely at some of them, they're just like lookalikes. They're not even actually him. They had like some dudes that kind of look like Bruce Campbell in there.
They were like blue shirt, pants, a belt. We're good.
And a semi decent chin. So I really like that to get to all those little ashes, he charges that mirror and he just runs into it.
Yeah.
He just throws his whole body into it. And then
He wasn't going to waste a shotgun shell on it.
He couldn't
He's
punch
only
it.
got like 1,000 of those.
He has plenty. What do you mean?
He couldn't punch it with his metal hand.
Oh,
He had
dude.
to run into it with his whole body and then like fall backwards.
Oh, I want to talk about the iterations of his hand. We get the medieval glove, we get the wooden hand, and then we get the power glove.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like genuinely. Pablo almost dies making a hand for Ash. Oh god, dude. Sam Wise Gamgee.
Oh, and those mini ashes, like everything with that, like where he's like chasing him, and he's like thief, or where he's like London Bridge is falling down, and then the little ashes go, my fair lady. Like all that felt like some shit out of like a Tom and Jerry episode or something. It's so perfect.
Oh, dude, whenever he goes to stomp on them and they hold the fork up,
Yeah.
or like whatever, he steps on it and you just hear the like the escape of breath from his body. It really is. It is a Cartoon Network like Saturday morning kind of vibe.
And then, of course, that leads into because he swallows one of them, or one of them jumps inside of him, and
Jumps
then
into his
He
mouth,
doesn't
yeah.
really swallow. They kind of forces their way down his
and then
gullet.
and then he's like, "How about some hot cocoa?" And he just pours this scalding
Yeah,
hot down
boiling
his
water.
Oh
throat.
my god, yeah, like it hurts him, but not in the sense I think it should. He
Right.
should not have been able to swallow that.
and then he's
Do you think
fine
that-
after swallowing it. He's just like looking at his stomach, like, "Yeah, you're about to get up." Like,
Do you think that was him like repenting for just shoving water down Scott's throat in the first one when he was...
it's possible.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
actually, so the Silent Bob line is directly after that. Like once the other version of Ash starts splitting out of him, like you go from all of these one-liners to things like everything that's just funny, and then you get to he's like good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
That's another
And
awesome
you're like, it
one-liner.
really does come down to it. Well, no, but I agree, but it's not comedic or anything. It's just I think it's actually kind of prolific in that sense because it's like you're right, like he isn't good, he isn't bad, he's just the guy with the gun, so he's coming out on top.
And then he cuts him up, throws him in that
Yeah.
hole, and then the guy's like, "You'll never get the Necronomicon." And then he's like, "Hey, what's that you got on your face?"
Hey, what's that you got on your face? Huh?
And then instantly hits him in the face with some dirt.
Yeah, he's like, what's on your face? He's like, what? I like that. So I have Army of Darkness. I bought 1 through 3 so I can watch them on Amazon. Bruce Campbell is accredited with Ash, and quoting Bad Ash in that scene. Like when you pause it, it'll
Bet
show like
you're
the
good,
credits.
Ash.
He's like, good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun. But anyway, that's what I had to say. I'll let you take over and just kind of lead on.
Because I had said that the one scene was like Tom and Jerry. Then there's that scene with the skeleton arms. Straight up Three Stooges.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the like, and then he like blocks it with his hand, and then the two others come up.
There's like the clearest bleed through of Sam Raimi's love of the Three Stooges out of the entire 3 movies right there.
Absolutely.
That's straight up just a Three Stooges scene in the middle of Army of Darkness.
3 Stooges, 3 Necronomicons.
Yeah.
No one said there would be 3.
No, then that makeup when he's got his face and it gets sucked into the book and then it's all elongated.
Oh yeah, that was wild.
Awesome. Also, my favorite skeleton from the Army of Darkness is the one that's got like no legs. So he's just like kind of crawling towards Ash. He's like, I'm gonna cut your gizzard off. And then Ash like goes up and he's like, hey, where'd he go?
Where'd he go?
And then he just
Falls
gets
on him.
crushed. I love
That
that
was
one.
hilarious.
That and the one that's got like the beard and is playing the bagpipes. Because like
The Scottish skeleton.
somebody in the makeup department was like, well, it doesn't make sense because they're like skeletons, so they don't have skin or anything. So wouldn't the hair just fall off? And Sam Raimi said to him, he said, if you question that, you're not getting the spirit of the movie.
No, truly, I'm like, there's so much that like you really could like. Well, it doesn't make any sense, really. Like, and you're gonna question the beard on a skeleton. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you want from me? It was fake. I do want to bring up like Danny Elfman composing the score for the March of the Dead, like in the ending of Army of Darkness.
Yeah,
Dude,
I saw that in the credits. That was wild. Yeah,
it was amazing. Like that. The sound, the music for that is just so good. And then you see the one skeleton using bones as like drumsticks, and he's just marching down.
There's one with the flute. He's like a bone.
Oh yeah, the flute. I forgot about that. So good. The Army of Darkness is I don't think there's another movie that comes close to it. Truly, I don't know what there would be.
Evil Dead 2. You did put it
something that's not done by Sam Raimi. Something that's not Sam Raimi done. Yeah, no, but again, I know it's I'm just repeating myself, but I just keep coming back to I just love these movies.
So
everything about them is amazing.
So I think this is a good time to bring it up. The original ending of Army of Darkness, because Sam, I know you probably aren't aware of this, but the what?
Well, do you want to mention the ending to season 3 of Ash
Well,
vs. Evil Dead?
I was gonna bring it
first?
up. Well, it doesn't really matter. I just figured I'd bring up the original for this first, because
no, that's fair. That's fair.
Originally, what it wasn't supposed to be him getting back to his time and like going back to work at the S Mart. What it was the Necronomicon taught them how to make this like tincture, and if he took 4 drops of it. Hey, don't question my use of the word on this.
So sorry. All I can think of is like fucking Skyrim and shit now.
But so he takes 4 drops and he'll sleep for years and years and years, and he'll wake up in his timeline. So he goes into this cave with his car. He blows up the opening so that it seals, and then he's taking the
like
tincture.
Jesus Christ.
He's taking the tincture, and he drops like 3 drops, and then he gets distracted by something, and he goes back to counting it, but he miscounts, and so he does 6 instead of 4. Oversleeps, and then he wakes up in the future, and everything is destroyed. It's a post-apocalyptic London. And basically it ends with him going, "No! I overslept!"
Me every morning going to class. Like, it's actually going to be me tomorrow after I get off here. I do want to bring up, like, let's estimate, how many, like, decades do you think it is after that? 'Cause he went from 1400 AD to 1980s, right? Normally, he didn't wake up with a beard. But in this one, he's got a beard. So, like, what happened in that, like, extra, like, 200 years that, like, his testosterone was like, we're going to get this man, like, going?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is the way he gets there. Because I feel like in the theatrical ending, it's kind of implied that he's just sent back through, like, the same kind of vortex he showed up in. Whereas in this ending, he's actually sleeping. So when he wakes up, he's got the beard and stuff. And maybe that is how they intended on doing it in the theatrical, but we just see it cut to him at S-Mart. We don't actually see him wake up. So he could have woke up with the beard still. And
so while we talk about that ending then, at the end of season 3, I didn't get to the end of it. I don't exactly remember how he gets to the future, but he ends up in the future in a post-apocalyptic world to where he chases the Dark Ones. He's got like a decked out Delta, again, another Oldsmobile 73, Delta like 88, like that whole car. Like that's just his thing. That's Sam Raimi's thing. So let's say that the I overslept ending is too long. I overslept is canon. There is a universe where there's 2 Ashes. Like, 'cause then the one in the show has got to exist somehow. I'm just saying, like, those 2 things, like, collided almost. There's got to be 2 Ashes out there.
Well, we already know there are, because they've fought multiple times, so there's 3 Ashes.
Listen, there's a multiverse of madness in the Evil Dead world. It's basically what I'm saying.
I'm telling you, I was kind of... we want to talk about expectations for multiverse of madness. I did kind of hope he was going to show up as Ash in Doctor Strange. And then
like he's working in a butcher's office. He's like, what, you want like the flank steak?
Yeah,
he's like just
cuts it
it
with
down.
a chainsaw.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No, the way he ends up there is he's like fighting a monster. He's like, it's a giant thing, and he ends up blowing it up with himself. And you think he's dead, and then
because he shoots the dagger out of the tank, right?
Yeah, and then he wakes up in like a cryo chamber in the future, and they're like, yeah,
we've been form-fitting suit on.
We've been waiting for you, and then he gets into like that decked out car, and I'm not gonna lie, man, I was so bummed.
Space trucking's playing like in the season 1.
I am so mad that we won't get a 4th season, and
dude, because
I'm partially responsible for that because
You
I
pirated the show, didn't you?
yeah, I was one of the people
Asshole.
that pirated the
I
show.
paid for every season.
Yeah, I should have, and I wish I had, but I was like,
I hate you.
and I can't really use this as an excuse since you did, but I was using the excuse, but I was a kid, I didn't know any better, I didn't realize the effects. I know, and you were younger than me.
I wasn't even 18. I wasn't even 18.
But okay, so you had disposable
paid.
income. I was like paying rent and bills and and I was like, I'm not gonna pay.
Watch the show, Devin.
I'm not gonna
Still
pay
watch the show then.
the Stars price for this show when I can watch it for free online.
I bought it on DVD. I went to Walmart like a year or two. Like I would wait like a year before it came out. Oh.
Yeah,
You're the reason that we got canceled.
I regret it to this day. Well, when we meet Bruce Campbell, I'm gonna potentially apologize to him for doing that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna straight up admit it and be like, I'm sorry, dude. I did not realize at the time what I was doing.
Yeah, no, dude, Bruce Campbell himself even released. He's like, guys, he's like, please stop pirating the show.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't see that.
It.
I didn't see that at the time. I only saw an interview he did like a year or two later where he's like, the problem was nobody was paying to watch the show. They're just watching it online. And I was like, oh, I did not realize that was like that big of a problem. My thought process when doing it was, there's enough people paying for it. I'm probably all right. Apparently, nobody was paying for it.
See, everyone thought like you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna make sure that if we have to go in separate for photos or whatever, I'm gonna look at him and say, I paid for every season. And then you're gonna come in. I'm gonna make sure you go after me so then he can just backhand you like he did to Linda. Devin, you crushed my dreams.
No,
I was freshly 18. My life ruined because of you.
Yeah, I regret it. Like I said, because I really want to see that's a storyline that they've set up twice now.
Too.
And they will never pay off, especially because now he's retired. He retired from the
like he
role
said,
after
he retired
that.
live action from Ash. He's like, he'll still do voice acting and everything, but he's like, I'm never gonna play Ash again.
He is in the new Evil Dead game. He does play Ash.
He has done the voice acting for like every single iteration of Ash, even like to the mobile game that came out.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean,
I blame you for ruining my life.
He's not. I know he's attached as a producer, but he's not going to be in Evil Dead Rise, which comes out on HBO later this year.
So let me ask you: from the the poster of that show, they're going to take it to more of like a. I think they're going to take it to a kind of Ash versus Evil Dead scenario where they're in like civilization, because it looks like skyscrapers and stuff mirroring it.
I saw the poster. You're talking about the one where it's like the skyscrapers and then the mirror is the one skyscraper in the middle is the chainsaw. Yeah. So what
it makes me think of like As Above, So Below trailer.
Well, so what it is,
or poster.
From what I heard, the plot is that it takes place. It's all in one location. It takes place in an apartment complex, probably like a project style apartment complex, and something happens that unleashes the evil force in this apartment complex. Everyone starts turning into deadites in this complex, and the main characters have to fight their way out.
That makes me so excited because I think this is everybody's thought process with like horror movies and stuff, is just like, what if this happened in the middle of a city? Like, you get almost that, like, you want to say like, I'll just take off to get to like New York, whatever, because you're like, more people equals safety, right? Like safety in numbers kind of vibe. This is going to erase that completely. And also, do you think that they're going to like do an indirect sequel to the original remake to where they're going to bring up the events that happened to that one and then tie it in somehow? Or do you think they're going to restart?
I heard this one's supposed to take place in the Ash versus Evil Dead universe. So this is going to, there's a potential that we could see Pablo or Kelly or both.
Dude, if they show up on the news, even I'll be happy with that.
Right. And just even some references to Ash or any of them would be cool. That being said, I would still like to see Fed Alvarez, the director of the remake. He talked about wanting to do a sequel to that remake, and he still has interest. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I would love to see it.
Like, I get it's been 9 years since the remake. I get it. One, like, just an issue of trying to get that cast back. Well, I mean, granted,
Well,
they
the only
need
person
Jane
they
Levy
need is
back
yeah,
now.
Jane Levy.
But who? Like, I'm gonna sound kind of like an ass. I don't give. I'm gonna sound like an asshole. She hasn't really been up to much besides Don't Breathe.
Yeah. Well, no, she was in a show called Suburgatory.
Suburbia or Suburgatory. Okay, but like I'm talking like post or like in the last like 4 years. I feel like she hasn't been in much. Granted, I wish she was. Again,
She's in
I love
a
her.
show called Zoe's Extraordinary
wife.
Playlist.
My wife.
Oh, she
My wife.
she was in that movie Monster Trucks. But yeah, so Sam, after this conversation, has this changed your outlook on the movies at all in any way?
I will say, I enjoyed Army of Darkness. That was a good movie. The other two are still kind of meh. But
No, but they're not meh.
I
think if you would watch them with the right group of people, you would enjoy them.
that and now going into it knowing the shoestring approach to making them might make you appreciate them a little more. Could be not so much, but
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the difference between, like, you, Devin, you and I, like, we've known about these, watched these a lot.
yeah.
We know a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, so we have a different kind of appreciation for it more than just face value, which I can't hold against you, Sam, at all. I mean, again, and also, it's your opinion. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. But
Well, and Beck, and when you had gotten up to go do something real quick, but I had told Sam there was an interview. I think it was Bruce Campbell was the one that was talking, but he was saying that, like, especially with the Evil Dead 2, it's not really a movie that you like show your parents to or all your friends or even like a girl that you really like and like expect them all to get it and like it. Like, it's not for everyone. It's a unique movie in
like
that
it.
in that yeah, it's well, I kind of thought Sam would like it. So
Well, you think you may know who like it.
My main problem with it was just
it, but he's actually just not that cool of a person.
But no, my main problem was just like the over the top effects. That was
I think that's what brings me into it, though, is like it's the effects because it's so over the top, and I think like what we touched on on our first one was like it's like Nicolas Cage's acting. We know what to expect from him. We want that like stupid like overacting, and we want those over the top effects from Sam Raimi. And I think that's become part of his style, and that's why he is who he is. So you either love him or hate him for that reason.
There, one thing I forgot to bring up was that scene in Evil Dead 2 when the redneck dude, I think it's Jake. I can't remember what his name is, but the redneck dude, he gets sucked into the cellar, and when he gets sucked into the cellar and all that blood starts shooting up, apparently that dude almost died filming that because when they shot it up, they accidentally missed their aim with it, and it shot all like up his nose and in his face, and he had all that fake corn syrupy blood just trapped in like his throat and nose and so he like couldn't breathe and he had to like flush it out, and it was just like one of the worst experiences.
But now he's famous. Nobody knows his name or his character's name, but he's famous.
I mean, that's another thing is like those guys from those movies, they'll like go to conventions or anything, and they've been in a couple things, but it's always the Evil Dead. That's like the thing that they're known for is the Evil Dead, and that's
because people love it that much.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's generational too. Like they're always amazed at how young some of the people that come up to them are. They're like, it's crazy that we made this movie like 30 years ago and people still are discovering it and loving it and bringing it like to us.
That's one thing that, like, I guess from like a point of view of like living in the middle of nowhere, you don't understand why people get upset with being recognized as like that for one thing that they did. Like, what shouldn't you just be happy? Like, I know Harrison Ford has been like very open about how he's like, I don't like that I'm only recognized for like Star Wars or Indiana Jones, whatever. But it's like, shouldn't you be happy that you're recognized in general?
Right.
Because like nobody knows, like from like our point of view, nobody knows us. Like, you did one thing that has impacted so many people's lives, like, whether it's just like, well, we love, like, you in this. I feel like you should just, like, dude, be humbled almost that, like, this is why people love you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
I guess that's gonna be it. You know, we've been streaming for almost
We,
4 hours now.
Are we gonna lead off with the line and, like, in the horrible, like, union or the harmonization that we are gonna have to do? Or do you want me to take it?
No, you can do it. I'm a little pepperonio. This is
I'm Chef Ice Milk. Sam.
Sam, what do you got?
Signing off.
All right, viewers, remember, shop smart, shop S smart. Have a good night.